Oh, no, you clicked it, bro.
What?
Fuck.
No, I did.
Oh, shit. 25 seconds. I might have to. Battery. 1 second. I'm looking. Any crystals?
Press the button.
Here, behind me. From ping.
15 seconds. You shield wall? No, you have it.
It was clicked again by Snowflakes.
Why? Bro, everybody Petri, double Petri, double Petri, double Petri, double Petri. We're either burning the boss or double Petri.
Finish it.
Yeah, finish.
Finish it.
Right? If he comes for you, Petri. No. Fuck. Bro, Snowflakes, man, why you fucking troll us, bro?
Yeah, that guy griefed.
Tac.
Yeah, thank you, Sky. Sorry, last minute.
Beat him well.
Move, separate them, separate
Et il faut les
them.
séparer.
Go wrong here, I've never raided this place.
Careful, Kata. Slip, Kata. Good.
He's coming back. He's coming back. Green.
We need a pickup from you, Blanks, please.
Il est sur Miles. Blinks, là, voilà. Hop, on instant. Ah, ok. Ah, je suis mort, voilà.
I guess they weren't supposed to pull the dragon or something.
Voilà, l'aventure s'arrête.
And go home with your Petri. Single Petri, please.
Et ben voilà,
Yeah, close.
c'est fini.
Villagers. Pretty common deaths, yeah. She's gonna pull an extra.
Oh
You gotta
dear.
run now.
Oh dear. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Run.
It's okay. It's okay. Holy fuck! Whoa! Ah! Whoa!
Any potions? No.
Whoa! Whoa! I don't know what to fucking do. I don't know what to fucking do. I don't know what to do.
You're
Ah!
ran
Run away!
once you
Run
got
away!
that second
Run away!
mob.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Sheer mind. What's this? Oh, I think this is like I remember doing a question on like an overgeared warrior or over leveled end dude. This is in Stone Talon Mountains. It's in like the line for a quest. And I think this is the end of it where you get like a few waves. Like this is ballsy to do as a warrior at the current level. What level are these? 15. No, 22. So I think I did this quest at like 26, 27 on my way.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, he's saved by the bell there. By the level. I think I was dual wield when I was doing this. It's like double fury weapons. I think one more wave comes around here, or did he get them all?
Oh shit.
Majora. 41 warrior versus rogue. This could go either way. Oh, the death ray. Yeah. He's gonna kill him. Remember Mitch Jones used that like in a normal duel? Somehow still killed his like gilded. This guy's tanky as fuck. This guy's gotta run away. Oh, sticky blue. That's on his net. Alliance Feral Druid. What the fuck are you doing in Org?
6 gold.
The fuck?
What is this fucking threat meter right now? Oh my god.
Did the priest not
Bro,
like
what?
control? Or is there a different strat? I've only done Nax and Wrath of
Oh
Lich King.
my god. Rip Falbat and Reborn.
What guild
Holy
is
shit. Spawn for Ethrios. Dummy.
this? EL.
Dude.
I wonder if Bloodthirst is still raiding. I wonder if we'll see one of their clips here. It's the guild I was in when I was playing hardcore.
Did you know how to forward?
Ah!
Contest, man.
Wouldn't it be better to Petri though, or did he Petri? Zul'Farrak with. Are these Order Alliance? Alliance. Okay, so Paladins. Paladin thing, right? Or is the Warrior the thing? This is the first boss. One, they're fucking up. You're not supposed to be killing the servants of Ender's soul. You just melt the boss down first. It's like you're not gonna be able to keep up with it. You want to like kill him as fast as you can so you get as few of those to like deal with. I've tanked this a few times on hardcore as Shaman. And it looks like someone was just feared by the Basilisk. Yeah, healing land. It's a full wipe, it looks like, unless someone can get away, but no one's killing that Earth Grab totem, so that's rooting them. That could also fuck with the threat. General rule of thumb, if something drops a totem, just kill the totem. Let's see. He's in Tire Mall West. Still has banished as well. What happened there? I thought he was in Petra, or did he try to cancel it and read it? Yeah, I was never gonna tank this place unless I had like a bunch of there's oil of immolation. There's a lot of AoE threat. Big pulls you gotta do is Shaman Tank. Yeah, I don't think I did this dungeon or did I do Shoro? I don't think I did either.
This Cowboy Dan guy is no joke.
I hear Asmongold. Wait, what? Is he Chad Knight? That sounded like Asmongold. Is this OnlyFangs?
Nah, bro, nah. No, there's, no. What? Are you kidding me? Poison? Was that still, did I still have the dot on me? Fuck, I mean, this guy was really good, I'm gonna be honest.
Unless he's listening.
I think that I fucked up by not having that, that other ability. Like I don't know, like, I won so many other games with that ability. I feel, or won so many other fights with the ability. I feel like it was still the right decision.
Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, you're healing at 80% HP. Isn't that smart to do?
Sounds like it's the last one.
Yeah, you need a defensive. Yeah, Fish is very good. That's what I think happened.
Oh wait. Oh, he's Blade of Illusion.
Stay topped up. Yeah, I think it's smart to do because the faster you heal, the faster you can heal again.
Alright, let's get to making my gold back. God damn it. What can I listen to in the background? History of clan weaving. I've heard of that in like TBC, or is it like
September 2022. The classic
Alright.
re-release of World of Warcraft's Wrath of the Lich King expansion is right around the corner. And leading up to the release, the developers at Blizzard Entertainment applied a preparatory patch, or pre-patch, to the current version of the game, which included several of the major changes a part of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, without allowing any access to the new leveling or endgame content associated with it. These changes ranged from changes to the combat system, new skill trees, adjustments to class balance, and most importantly, the inclusion of the new Death Knight class. Unlike most classes, which require players to begin at level 1, the Death Knight was designed to fall under the category of a hero class, meaning that it could start all the way at level 55 instead, allowing them to skip a large portion of the game's leveling-based content. So, to prevent the abuse of this advantage, during the original 2008 release of Wrath of the Lich King, Blizzard put in place two important restrictions in regards to creating a Death Knight. First, players were not allowed to create more than one Death Knight per server, and second, players were not allowed to create a Death Knight unless they already had a character on that server of a different class that was level 55 or higher. However, in the 2022 Classic re-release, Blizzard made the controversial decision to remove this second restriction for every account's first Death Knight. The reasoning behind this change was to attract newer players to the game, as well as older fans to the Death Knight class that had not yet interacted with the other classic versions of the game, by letting them skip the 1 to 55 leveling experience and allowing them quicker access to newer and more relevant content. So as a result, the decision to remove this restriction opened the doors for millions of players, regardless of their prior experience with WoW Classic, to create one of these powerful Death Knight characters as soon as the pre-patch was released. And as soon as it did, the servers began to be absolutely flooded with them as players began to level their Death Knights from 55 to 70 being the current level cap at the time, in order to prepare their characters for the official release of the expansion, where new content in the form of new zones, dungeons, raids, and PvP events would be introduced, and where the level cap would then be raised to 80. But amidst this vast influx of Death Knights during the pre-patch, a meme was born. A clammed theme meme that would completely bamboozle not just the Death Knights, but the WoW Classic community as a whole. On September 24th, 2022, only 2 days before the official launch of Wrath Classic, a post was made on the Classic WoW subreddit titled Why You Need to Be Clam Weaving. In the post, a player by the name of Mori shares the following story. Me and some guildmates were hanging out in Discord, chatting while 5 of them were queuing Warsong Gulch with the new honor buffs. Tenok, our main blood tank, was streaming. I wasn't paying very close attention, but my guildmate Z was. Tenok was in the middle of a fight. He didn't have a health potion on his action bars, so he opened his inventory to click one. He missed it. Instead, he clicked a Jaggle Clam. Now, the interesting thing was that he clicked it right after using Death Strike, and something odd happened. He spammed Death Coil, and it went off immediately. Apparently, Tenok believed that this interaction had somehow managed to reset his global cooldown, also known as the GCD. For those unaware, the GCD is the endgame timer, usually lasting about 1 to 1.5 seconds depending on your class, that occurs after using an ability to space out ability casts and to prevent players from using abilities too quickly. Because Tenok's GCD had supposedly been reset, he was able to cast 2 spells immediately back to back, allowing him to deal damage much faster than what was normally possible. Mori, unconvinced by Tenok's claim, took it upon herself to test this interaction with the help of another Death Knight by the name of Ibanyue, or, as he's known more commonly, Yansa. They started by slaying the various marsh treasure mobs in Zanger Marsh, as they have a rather high rate of dropping Jaggle clams, and began testing by having Yansa open the clams mid-combat. The first few tests were largely unsuccessful, but they eventually made a breakthrough once Tenok left the Warsong Gulch group to help. At first, he mimicked Yansa's usage of clams to no avail, but he eventually made one minor adjustment. He switched his presence. Death Knights have 3 different presences, or stances, those being Frost, Blood, and Unholy, each providing a different set of passive bonuses depending on which one is currently active. Frost Presence gives additional stamina, increasing the player's health, additional armor, which lowers the amount of physical damage taken from enemies, gives an additional reduction to all damage taken, and increases the threat generated from abilities, meaning that non-player enemies will be more likely to attack them as they deal damage. Blood Presence is a bit simpler. It just increases the Death Knight's damage and self-healing. Unholy Presence, however, provides the Death Knight with increased attack speed and movement speed, speed, but most importantly, it reduces the time of the global cooldown by half a second. While Blood Presence usually ends up dealing more damage in longer fights, like in dungeon or raid boss encounters, Unholy Presence sees a lot more usage in PvP encounters, as it's usually a good idea for players to build their characters around dealing large chunks of damage in quick bursts, rather than spreading their damage over a long period of time. So, since he was using Unholy Presence when he first experienced the bug in a PvP battleground, Temek switched back to Unholy, tried another clam, and this time, the bug worked. However, when Yansa switched to Unholy and tried the same thing, it failed. So clearly there had to be something else going on in tandem with the use of Unholy Presence. And eventually, after searching through all of the differences between their two characters, the group managed to narrow it down to one specific talent: Improved Unholy Presence. Improved Unholy Presence is a bit of a strange case, since the classic versions of World of Warcraft were originally released several years ago, 2008 in the case of Wrath of the Lich King. Longtime fans of the game have had more than enough time to theorize and calculate the best possible ways to allocate your skill points depending on what type of content you engage with. And while yes, some people still choose to deviate from these talent presets or builds from time to time, a very large portion of the player base will almost always stick to these common builds without question, because people are less likely to pick a talent with a more niche use when they know that other talents have been mathematically proven to be more effective. In the case of Improved Unholy Presence though, most players rarely ever used it, at least on the PvE side of things, but generally speaking, it was one that the vast majority of players overlooked. So, Yansa went and changed his talents to now include Improved Unholy Presence, then tried another clam, and, wouldn't you know, his global cooldown reset. They had figured out the bug, and as a result, the method of combat known as clam weaving had been created. They weren't entirely sure why clam weaving worked, but the hypothesis they devised relied on the following three pieces of information. First, the Unholy Presence ability directly alters the global cooldown. Second, while the Improved Unholy Presence talent does not affect the global cooldown, it does affect the properties of the Unholy Presence ability, which does. And third, in addition to the global cooldown surrounding abilities, there exists an additional global cooldown triggered specifically for usable items. So, their running theory was that the bug may have been caused by an unintended interaction between the talent and the ability, and how it interacted with the two separate global cooldowns. After this, the group did a bit more testing with other items such as potions, scrolls, and other consumables, but the only types of items that seemed to work were container items like lockboxes and of course the clams. Mori then concluded her post by encouraging other players to try their hand at clam weaving in order to gain a massive boost to their damage output, but more importantly to help them figure out more ways of optimizing the technique. To facilitate their assistance, she even provided a helpful clam weaving macro, which is an in-game command that could be bound to a single button in order to simplify the act of casting an ability and opening a clam at the same time, and recommended that players use the Speedy Auto Loot add-on, which drastically speeds up the game's auto loot feature, which would clear the loot frame that comes from opening a container much faster, which would then in turn allow players to clam weave much more frequently. Not long after, the post was an in-game command that could be bound to a single button in order to simplify and of course the clams. Mori then concluded her post by encouraging other players to try their hand at clam weaving in order to gain a massive boost to their damage output, but more importantly to help them figure out more ways of optimizing the technique. To facilitate their assistance, she even provided a helpful clam weaving macro, which is an in-game command that could be bound to a single button in order to simplify the act of casting an ability and opening a clam at the same time, and recommended that players use the Speedy Auto Loot add-on, which drastically speeds up the game's auto loot feature, which would clear the loot frame that comes from opening a container much faster, which would then in turn allow players to clam weave much more frequently. Not long after, the post was picked up by Blight Club, the community-driven Discord server used by WoW players to connect and discuss in-game strategy related to the Death Knight class, and from there, it exploded in popularity. Soon enough, everyone, from your everyday player to some of the most popular streamers on Twitch, were all talking about clam weaving.
Dude, there's a bug right now that if you open up you know those Jaggle clams? If you open up a clam while you're on global cooldown with Unholy Presence, it resets your global cooldown. So, Death Knights right now can technically just machine gun, like...
Tons of Death Knights began spending their gold to switch their talents in order to include improved Unholy Presence, and players from all over, regardless of their class, began flocking to Zengarmarsh to collect as many clams as possible. Of course, the Death Knights were farming them to use them, but everyone else saw it as the perfect opportunity for profit, as they began selling these clams to other players on the in-game auction house for absurd amounts of gold. But as the chaos ensued, people began to doubt the legitimacy of clam weaving. Sure, there had been similar bugs or weird spell interactions like this before. Druids have definitely had their fair share of stuff like this, so it wasn't that the idea of clam weaving was completely unbelievable, but the fact was that no one had been able to replicate what Mori had described. In essence, if clam weaving was in fact real, she was going to need more evidence.
Hey y'all, this is Ailamau, otherwise known as Mori or Moriko on Sulfuris Horde. I'm the raid leader for All Cats Are Beautiful.
The next day, Mori posted a YouTube video titled Clam Weaving Proof, footage inside, which contained a short clip of Tenok performing the glitch on a training dummy, which he then slowed down to show that his global cooldown had in fact been reset upon opening a clam. Here was the proof, exactly as advertised. Well, not exactly. If one were to continue watching the video, immediately following the footage of Tenok was this clip.
Y me llama el cocinero. Risita, ¿qué? Ve por la paellera. Venga, que las 2 de la tarde ya están aquí. Miren, bañador. Pues las chanclas. Todo despeinado porque no me dio tiempo nada ponerme las chanclas y el bañador. Voy a la playa, había subido la marea.
And so, as you can see, clam weaving was never real to begin with. But as the clam weaving craze came to its conclusion, despite being lied to, players began to look at clam weaving with surprising fondness. Of course, people had been making memes throughout the occurrence, but even after Mori had come clean about it, people continued to make jokes about clam weaving, pretending as if it were a real thing. And if you go into the Blight Club Discord server today, you'll find that not only are there custom clam weaving emojis, but Mori and Tenok were also both given unique clam commander roles to identify them as the co-creators of the joke. And later that month, Mori and Tenok both appeared on the podcast known as Countdown to Classic, where they were interviewed by host Joshua Corbett, and where they shared details about both the origin of the meme and some of their reactions to its success. But it wasn't just the community that recognized their efforts. A few months later, in a 2023 April Fool's post, Blizzard even referenced the meme, joking that they intended to introduce a new in-game profession called weaving, which, in addition to making fun of actual player-devised gameplay techniques, like melee weaving and bear weaving, they made a direct reference to clam weaving, exposing the joke to a much wider audience.
I think it was very cool. I did not expect anything to come from this. So the morning after, right, I woke up, after I posted it, felt like a kid waking up on Christmas morning and with my inbox flooded and being like, oh my God, people are taking this seriously, Light Club's freaking out. And that was a lot of fun. So to see Blizzard engage with that and to like go along with the joke was super cool.
But it wasn't until a few months later that clam weaving would truly be cemented into WoW history. At the 2023 BlizzCon, a gaming convention held by Blizzard in Anaheim, California, to celebrate their games and to showcase the upcoming content, Blizzard announced a whole bunch of their future plans. Not only did they announce the next 3 expansions for the modern version of the game, but also the classic re-release of the Cataclysm expansion, as well as Season of Discovery, a modified and seasonal version of original World of Warcraft filled with new abilities, quests, and other secrets. In addition to these new features, Season of Discovery, or SOD for short, also included a new level-based phase schedule. Phases meaning new waves of content in which the first is released usually a few months after launch, and subsequent phases are spaced out in a similar manner after that. While in original WoW, phases primarily included content developed for level 60 characters, which is the max level in this version, in SOD, the first phase would limit players to level 25, with the next phase raising the level cap to 40, then 50, and then finally 60. While this system served to give players more time to explore and optimize new abilities, it also put more of an emphasis on the game's lower level dungeons, a form of PvE content in which 5 players venture into an instance locale with the goal of defeating a set number of bosses in order to obtain large amounts of experience points as well as valuable upgrades to their weapons and armor. Additionally, Blizzard also made the choice to select a dungeon for each phase and upgrade it into a raid, raising the difficulty of the dungeon's encounters by adding new bosses, strengthening old bosses, and requiring around 10 to 20 players instead of a typical 5. But most importantly, the shift from dungeon to raid also gave Blizzard the opportunity to introduce powerful new items into the game that would drop from these more challenging fights. And one of these special items, designed to fit the ocean theme of the Phase 1 raid of Blackfathom Deeps, and dropped by the giant turtle Gamura, is none other than the Clamweave Tunic, a cloth chest piece with a tooltip reading, "You're not entirely certain,
I've
but
got
you're
that
pretty
on
sure
like
that
my
clam
warlock
weaving
ult,
isn't a real
or
thing."
no, my mage ult.
Oh, I freaked the f*** out. I was like, no way, because I was watching BlizzCon, and then I started getting DMs from people with a picture that somebody had taken from the SAW demo. They had the demo live before they went into the full in-depth presentation, where they included the Clamweave tunic as part of the slide deck. And I was just like, holy shit, there's no way that this random thought that my gremlin brain had made it into a Blizzard game. You know what I mean? Like, it's incredibly cool and incredibly humbling to, like, have something that you created be recognized like that. I was over the moon. Yeah, no, I was ecstatic. It's incredibly cool and incredibly humbling to be included in, you know, the history of World of Warcraft like that. I don't know. It doesn't feel real at times.
And that pretty much brings us to where we are today. But before I wrap things up, I just want to give a huge shout out to Mori, the Clam Queen herself, for making the initial post, and for helping me out as I was writing this video. 100%, it would not have been possible without her, and I just want to give huge props to her and Tannock for putting this whole thing together, and also to Tannock for his contributions to the joke, offering his knowledge of the Death Knight class while Mori was crafting the original post, and for helping to perpetuate it in Blight Club with all his fun little shenanigans after they picked it up. I also want to thank Josh Corbett for his wonderful interview on the Countdown to Classic podcast. It was actually Mori who directed me to it, but he asked some really great questions that definitely helped ton as I was scripting this video, and if you're interested in hearing more about the story directly from Mori and Tannock about some of the more finer details surrounding the joke, then I definitely recommend checking that out, and I'll have it linked in the description. And last of all, I want to thank all of you wonderful WoW players who helped turn this random Reddit post into one of the best memes I've seen in a long time. I had a ton of fun making this video, and I may or may not have just spent way too much time laughing at all the hilarious memes as I was researching and going through all the Blight Club chat logs and the Reddit posts. But again, thank you for being such a fun community. But that's pretty much all I have.
Give it
so,
a like.
Thanks.
This guy a sub. He's like one of those underrated channels. Alright, what can I listen to next here? I invented a new World of Warcraft game, but let's hear it.
The Dwarven and Gnome starting zone of Dun Morrow is possibly the most well-fortified area in the game. There are only 3 entrances, one inside Ironforge itself in the form of the Deep Run Tram, and 2 tunnels leading into the mountains from Loch Modan, which itself has only 2 entrances, from the south leaving the Badlands and from the northwest through a series of tunnels ascending the wetlands. Additionally, the place is littered with high-level guards. So, with that established, do you think it possible to travel to Dun Morrow as a level 4 Tauren on Hardcore Classic, traversing through everything we've just covered, if you can even get to that point before dying? Well, we might have to find out, because today I'm going to play Classic Hardcore, but every time I gain a level, I will spin a wheel to determine what zone I'm allowed to level in next. And to decide our starting faction and race, we're gonna do just that. Say hello to Zoner 1. Rolling Mulgar is possibly the worst start for 2 reasons. 1, Horde is just objectively harder to play in this challenge. Mulgar and Durotar are linked through the Barrens, which is reasonably accessible through Ashenvale. And while Tyr's Fall Glades is perhaps somewhat tricky to reach, half of Silverpine Forest is home to Alliance-friendly NPCs. In contrast, Teldrassil is a tree out in the ocean, and we've already talked about Dun Morrow. The only glimmer of light is Elwyn Forest, which is potentially accessible through Grom Gold. Reason number 2, Tauren are the only race unable to play as rogue, and having access to stealth in this challenge is an obvious benefit. Still, hunters do have ranged weapons, which is the only form of combat in the game that reliably can damage enemies far above their level. Spells are subject to resisting, and melee hits glance, miss, get parried, and dodged. Still, our path now is quite straightforward. I went to scout the zone in case there was any errant exploration XP that I did not want to receive after gaining a level, but it proved mostly fruitless, so I went back to the mesa to gain our first level, and it was time to roll the second zone. While obvious, it's quite paramount to lock our way into same faction areas at the early levels because of the lack of available resources. But as we are making our way across the Barrens, let's talk about the ground rules for this challenge. Number 1, no killing enemies or questing unless it's in the rolled zone. 2, no excessive exploration outside of rolled zones. 3, no gathering profession outside of the rolled zone. 4, no intentional help from other players or alts. 5, no intention of dying to farm good early games. And 6, the zones rolled will be within the available level range. Due to the nature of the challenge, sometimes it is impossible to avoid exploration XP. But in most cases, you will avoid a significant portion by just sticking to the road, because the road is never a sub-area possible to explore. Additionally, at levels after like 4, exploration XP is so minor that unless we actively try, it will not lead to a level up. But in the edge case that it does, the rule is simply that we have to reach the zone before rolling a new one. And trust me, reaching the zone is most assuredly the difficult part. At the onset, I was optimistic about picking up flight paths as I went along, thinking it might help me traverse and speed up the challenge. Little did I know just how broke I was going to end up being. Apparently, spending minimal time actually questing and killing mobs and majority traveling does not leave you with unbound riches. The barriers is generally pretty safe to travel through, because it's already intended for low-level Tauren to make their way north to the crossroads after reaching level 10. In Tirisfal, it's as easy as not falling off the Zeppelin, heading to Death Knell, killing a few things, then back to rolling. So far, so good. Only horde zones in this formative levels is once again not only appreciated, it's quite lucky. There's a 50% chance to get either horde or alliance, meaning that 3 back-to-back horde is only 1 in 8. So, technically at this point, I don't even know if this challenge is possible if you roll Don Moreau. It could be the case that it's a 1 in 6 that the challenge just ends. Of course, that's not gonna stop me from at least trying to get in. We have to take this one step at a time, and the first task was to scout potential locations of entry into the zone. I hopped on my mage to lay the groundwork, and after scouting Loch Modan, I quickly came to the conclusion that it's most likely unrealistic to get through here, especially considering you also need to reach this in the first place, the only viable entry being from wetlands, which would entail a long trek spanning the entire way from Tirisfal. Then you might be questioning if there's potentially a character on Stuck Skip, but the traditional one used for Alliance puts you right in front of the gates of Ironforge, next to 2 guards, guaranteeing instant death, and the others are either inaccessible or puts you deep within Gnomeregan, so it's a dead end in both regards. There is another way. A quite straightforward path from Searing Gorge lets you skip up the hill straight into the starting zone. But without even considering the implication of reaching Searing Gorge in the first place, the way to Don Moreau leads you hightailing through an entire ensemble of level 50 elites, a scenario not too pleasant for a young Tauren. So after spending some time researching for perhaps an alternate route, like a wall jump or something of the sort up the hillside to our potential entryway, I give up on the prospect and once again return to the loch to seek a solution. The first obvious problem is that both the tunnels into Don Moreau are off limits, as they are patrolled by guards, and any potential logout skip made inside them just brings you back to the lake. But this was rectified by a simple hike up a nearby mountain, putting you at the top of the closest peak, which means theoretically we have our way in, we just need to reach it. This brings us to the wetlands problem. As an alliance, running through wetlands is not a too distant reality, but taking the same route as Horde is simply impossible due to a single alliance NPC blocking the way. In turn, it leaves us with the option of coming from Arathi Highlands. Hopefully, it's going to be as simple as running through Tirisfal into Silverpine, then Hillspread straight into Arathi. This would let us pick up flight paths along the way should we ever roll the zone again and need to make a second trip. Of course, it is never simple. At the very entrance of Hillspread lie 2 wildlife specimens that block our way into the zone. No matter what I tried, it was either certain death or a very high likelihood of, which is not great odds to bank on, especially since it won't be our first or last obstacle, and stacking probabilities is never a good idea. Now this leaves us with a very simple but arduous solution of just swimming around all of it. Something I desperately try to avoid because it just takes a very long time. and it leaves us with 0 flight paths. It probably has the highest chance of working, but even considering that, there is no feasible entry into Arathi from the coast, and running through wetlands from that direction is off limits, but there is a way in. So I welcome you all to the Arathi Gambit. To start off, we simply start running from Terrace Fall into Silver Pine. Dodging some of the enemies along the way, we eventually reach the sepulchre, where we descend down the cliffs into the water. The northern half of this coastline is infested with scary fish looking to feast on some wagyu, so we have to pay close attention to their patrol and retreat to the closest rock if it comes down to it. As the danger clears, we now embark on the 20-minute swim from Silver Pine to the coast of Arathi. Along the way, there are some enemies in Hillspread to be wary of, but you can simply swim so far out as to not pose any threat. Now, to get up into the highlands, we have to use a trick familiar to some of you. In Falder's Cove, there is a small cave situated on the mountainside. That is our target. But to get there, we first need to swim through a reef infested with naga. There is no other way around except for this one very specific path. First, swim over the coral to dodge the 2 nagas on either side. Keep going straight until the coast is clear, eventually turning and sticking to the close right of this rocky outcrop. Once past this, the danger is mostly gone, and after keeping a left of the drowned troll structure, it's a straight line to freedom. The next step is technically simple. We will reach the cave, then log out skip, taking us straight into Arathi to the graveyard next to Refuge Point. I did a quick retry of the path on my testing character, then logged in to the game on our Tauren. So, apparently, that spider can patrol just slightly too close to the graveyard, and in my attempt to flee, I ran straight into an air elemental, costing me my life. A stray druid friend that happened to pass by tried his dearest to save us, but ultimately was just left confused by what had transpired. I even resisted the first cast from the elemental, which at my level is a 1 in 100 chance. Alas, the luck wasn't enough to keep us alive, and we simply have to go again. Rolling Night Elf is possibly the best scenario out of any race. They have access to Rogue and due to Shadow Meld have an entire level of stealth higher than other races. And they are Alliance, which have comparatively easy access to the other faction zones. As fate would have it, we were quickly dealt the short straw, and as early as level 2 started making our way towards Durotar. Now this was right after losing my previous character, and I think a combination of putting in that much work and squandering it, plus general burnout, kinda made me a bit too carefree running through Darkshore, and an unfortunately placed Thistlebear was swift to punish my insolence, sending us back to square one. Honestly, while Tauren is probably objectively the worst race to get, I was still kinda happy to get a chance at redemption. And I really wouldn't have to wait long, as at level 2, we were already on our way back for revenge. This was going to be a scenario that, due to my extremely low level, I would ding on my way over there. Which means I still have to reach the zone before rolling a new one, such that I don't get a free level out of it. You know the drill. Through Terrace Fall, into Silver Pine, found a new path to the coast that skips all the fish because they were scary, 20-minute swim. While swimming, I just wanted to apologize for the slight lack of videos, you know? But there's actually a good reason behind it. For the last 2 years, I've been developing a game with my friend, which took up a lot of my time. And balancing that plus YouTube was quite tricky. But we won't have to worry about that anymore because the game is released. When we started developing, we thought it was going to take around 3 months to finish, but it took 2 years. We had to spend that time to ensure the game turned out exactly how we first envisioned it. So if you got some spare time, please check it out. It's really fun, and I'm also dead broke now, so I need it. Every single part of this game has been made by either my friend or myself. For example, I was responsible for creating every single art asset. So if you think it looks bad, you know who to blame. It's available on App Store and Google Play, which is good because it won't interfere with your WoW time. 20-minute swim, over the coral, slightly to the right of the rock, left of the structure, and logout skip. This time, if I pull the spider, I knew to keep to the right, avoiding the elemental. Fortunately, I did not have to contend with this issue as the spider was out of sight on login. So, we made it to Arathi. In theory, we are now very close to wetlands. In reality, there is still a lot of danger surrounding us. This portion really just comes down to waiting for the right moment. There are about 3 points of danger. First, the 3-spider crossing, which we made short work of. Then we have the Spider Raptor Pincer Point, which is dealt by waiting for the spider to cross to the right of this little bump. And finally, the Duo Raptor Punch, remedied by sticking close to the river. There is a failsafe here, which is that neither of these animals can swim. So in case of emergency, I can plunge myself into the waters and wait for them to reset, then try again. It was not needed, and we were already making our way across the span, connecting the 2 major landmasses of Eastern Kingdoms. The start of wetlands is nary a challenge, only hindered by 2 crocs placed on either side of the road, which is something a little patience easily solves. We have made it so far, through multiple certain death scenarios standing between us and a single misstep, but it's still not over. To enter Loch Modan, we need to traverse the series of dwarf tunnels leading up the mountain. At the very last stretch, we're faced with yet another impossible scenario. 2 Blackrock orcs flank close to either side of the road. After spending legitimately hours trying to find my way around, the simple reality was that my only chance of living is a simple tank test. If I stick hard left upon exiting the tunnel, I should only pull 1 orc. Then I need to hold a steady line as I run towards the cliff, where it will reset at the very last second, leaving me still standing if I'm lucky. Okay, not close at all. I also forgot that there's a dwarf guard patrol in this area, which I'm supposed to scout before I make the run, but all's well that ends well. The next tunnel marks a point of large significance because it's the first tunnel within the Loch Modan logout skip region, which is to say, as we perform this skip, the next time we log in will be at the graveyard just on the border of Thelsamar. This is the only time where I will enact the aid of another character, and that is simply to scout the patrols around the skip. There are 3 patrols we need to be wary of here. Mountaineer Sten to the north, Mountaineer Droken to the south, and this wandering trader walking through the zone. Both the Mountaineers make brief stops by Thelsamar before moving on, and after a while of waiting for people to stop bothering the trader, he eventually walks away too, leaving us the perfect opportunity to log in. As we log in, we have to be swift to get out of dodge. Droken will make his way back eventually, and we don't want to be there when that happens. But the Mountaineer has a second job. As he reaches the apex of his patrol, he should engage and slay a Trog, which is standing between us and our path up the hills. And while we're hiding in the mountains, Droken unknowingly executes our bidding. With him out of the way, the final piece of our puzzle and the end of the journey is a comparatively extremely simple jump up a few rocks until we eventually ascend into the Dwarven and Gnome starting zone of Dod Morrow. Holy shit. We did it! From here, we can traverse basically half the zone while staying above all of it. But as I said, once the zone is reached, all we have to do is roll the next one. And after this, hopefully an easy one at that. Yeah, so after all the ruckus about how Dod Morrow is super well defended with only 3 entrances and how it's in the mountains, well, then how about Teldrassil, a tree stuck literally in the middle of the ocean? Do you know how many entrances that has? 1! and it teleports you straight into the heart of their capital city. But look, I'm not gonna toy around too much with you here. I had a pretty strong inkling going into this that Teldrassil would be possible, despite how it may seem. Yes, if we had to take the Rutheran village into Darnassus, we would be guaranteed to die, but we're not going to. I spoke a bit previously about a little something called the character unstuck service. Basically, in Classic, this used to bring you to the front of your capital city, either Stormwind or Orgrimmar, but at some point, I don't really know the specifics as to when, the service was changed to basically function like a logout skip. And after checking the skip zones around Teldrassil, there are multiple for us to take advantage of. After some testing, the Dolonar one instantly sends a guard on you, killing you in seconds. But the graveyard of Darnassus is surprisingly completely devoid of any sort of guards or NPCs. I guess they avoid putting creatures around spirit healers even in the off chance that the enemy faction has to use it. With that said, even if we know our way in once there, we still have to reach the place. Because of the minimal issue of it sitting in a large body of water, the only way of travel is by boat. All docks are inhibited by faction guards, and guards are one of the worst NPCs in the game to aggro. They move way faster than other NPCs and can call more guards to help them. We have to avoid pulling them at all costs. But even before attending that issue, we first have to reach Darkshore. And while traveling through Ashenvale is actually quite a feasible task for Alliance, Astranar completely blocks the way through as Horde. I'm sure there's some sort of magic I could pull off to make the trek possible, but I have a better idea yet. Because I already have to contend with one boat, why not make it two? I know the way to Meniful Harbor like the back of my hand by now. Yes, it will take some time, but assuredly so will walking through half the continent of Calibur. So, boat. Ever heard of hitching a ride? Basically, my idea is to hit the boat at a certain angle, causing it to take me with it. And a few tries later, we're stuck like glue. Two important notes. One, there is a chance that when the boat loads into the other area, I will unclip from the boat and just fall into the water, which is a bad thing. Two, the waters of Darkshore are positively infested with threshers, and they do not take kindly to hitchhikers. I had a path scouted as we arrived to shore, but it proved needless thanks to some premature calling by an avid quester. Avoiding guards, we swam to the predetermined thresher safe spot and awaited our second ship. Once another ride has been hitched, our goal is now simple. Make our way to the northwestern point of Teldrassil, just to put us into the logout skip section relating directly to the graveyard of Darnassus. If we misplace ourselves, or by some unfortunate happening the unstuck service decides to not function like usual, we will either be replaced directly by the Rutheran portal or someplace different entirely. Alas, that was not the case, and everything went according to plan. A quick skip up the side of a route and a hill, we were inside Teldrassil, making us probably the first level 3 Horde character to ever do so on hardcore. Challenge is not over yet, as we still need to gain a level. There simply aren't that many Alliance we have to worry about here, as long as we stay clear of Dolonar. Yet, it is best to stick to the level 5 enemies to be completely safe. At this point, it struck me that dying to a random cat after going through all of this would be extremely funny, but I wasn't feeling all that comedic, and after all of that, we reached level 4 and it was time to roll a new zone. Oh. Wait, release. Finally, some time to breathe. My goal with this challenge is to reach level 10. As you can understand, once we are past the range of the starting zones, the idea of the whole thing kinda dies down. Getting to the second zone of a faction is the same as the starting zone, but easier, seeing as we've had to get through basically all of them already. So really, reaching level 10 would be a massive win. It's also a high enough level that I cannot rely on crutches to pass. Technically, I could roll the same faction zones 10 times in a row. Realistically, the odds of that are like 1 in 10,000. Level 4 wasn't all that eventful, but the next roll decides something extremely important, and that is whether or not I'm able to engage with professions. I can only learn professions in a Horde zone. With them only being available at level 5, I haven't had the chance to yet. And as luck would have it, we were blessed with a back-to-back. Thanks to this, we picked up herbalism and alchemy. Picking flowers is our first renewable source of getting money, as we can just pick some and sell to vendors, doing so without gaining XP. Moreover, it also gives us access to potions from alchemy, and as you know, having any extra health could be the difference maker. I spent an hour or two picking flowers, training my skills, until eventually I felt satisfied and dropped both of them. If you know me, you know that anything other than engineering is a complete waste of time, and it was time to rectify that.
Are you bot?
Brother, I am self-found.
While target dummies are out of our reach at level 5, the reason for the season is a very nice gun, which severely increases our DPS output for the time being. And since we never know what enemies we might have to fight, extra damage is never bad. Feeling extremely strong and prepared, I finished up level 5, and it was time for another roll. Oh my god. Our old friend. Well, this time it's a bit different. With our new levels, new gear and supplies, the trek will be quite a bit less hazardous. Still dangerous, of course, but areas like Silver Pine and Wetlands prove quite manageable indeed. You know the drill. Terrace Fall into Silver Pine, jump into the water by SFK, 20-minute swim, over the coral to the right of the rock, and look, what can I say? I wasn't enough to the right going by the rock and pulled a Naga. Distance is so hard to gauge in the water, and I was scared of the caster in front of me, and the momentary lack of judgment rewarded me with hours upon hours wasted. I didn't even account for this happening at all. The entire stock of alchemy supplies remained unused at the time of death. After all the hardships, this was not where I expected to fall. But such is the challenge, which means we roll again. Our first time rolling Elwyn, thankfully as a start to a new adventure and not as an adversary in a current one. With a quick level, we were sent off to Teldrassil, forcing a deathless skip over the mountains of Casmodan, a skip which has been performed dozens of times, but I can't recall the last time I did it at level 2. Even after an encounter with a very stubborn croc, we made our way safely, got our level, and went for another roll.
I'm gonna take like just a little break here. We'll watch this guy's challenge.
In a callback to our last Alliance adventure and its abrupt ending, we were once again traveling to Durotar. This time I was not going to let haste get the best of me and thoroughly scouted the environs ahead of time. Considering the distance, it's quite astonishing how I only managed to identify 2 danger zones along the entire stretch to Durotar. One in Darkshore, where close to the end a few enemies hide within the trees, and then at the border to the Barrens, where a very stealthy spider hides amongst the local flora. But as I was on the very last stretch of my trek, I grievously misjudged just how sneaky the spider would be, and thinking it was the tree up ahead, I ran straight into its sticky web and terrible mandibles, meeting a swift death. A quick roll later, it was time for Zoner 5 to do what the others could not, hopefully. Zoner 5 turned out to be the embodiment of luck which I previously had not been blessed with during this challenge. All the way through level 5 was horde zones back to back to back to back, until eventually Teldrassil yet again came to taunt us. Even so, it is not unfamiliar territory to us. So we made our way to Menethil, and but a short hour later, while almost dying to the threshers as the boat sailed past, we once again made it to the roots of our beloved tree. Do the skip, kill some enemies, and then we roll. From here on out, our luck continues to soar. In fact, it got to the point where I was actually worried about completing the challenge with naught but Teldrassil to show for it. For all this babbling about a 1 in 10,000 chance, it seemed to actually come to fruition. And yes, while we had fought hard to get here, ending on such a safe and sound note felt wrong. That is, until we hit level 9. This time, for sure. We are at a higher level than ever, fully prepared with stronger potions. We have stealth for the first time since playing Horde. All the cards are in our favor. Now we just have to play them right. So, say it with me, hopefully one last time. From Tirisfal, through Silver Pine, into the waters by SFK, swim for 20 minutes, then this time while stealthed, over the coral, hard in throat while staying slightly to the right of the rocky outcrop, then left of the structure, and we make it safely to shore. Log out skip while in stealth to hopefully avoid any spindly friends, then run as we log in. At this point, I was deathly afraid of everything. It felt like I had forgotten at what distance enemies aggro at, how the patrols path, and had lost all my confidence. Eventually, the coast cleared up and we made our way through Arathi, through the wetlands, and into the tunnels to Loch Modan. Thankfully, it seemed like the scout blocking our path had been cleared out, and while he shouldn't have proven any problem whatsoever anymore due to our level and potions, it's still nice. Next, a quick logout skip and a scout on our main should lead us safe passage through the loch and up the hillside into the mountains of Dunmorrow. We had reached it. Unlike last time though, we are not done just yet, and we still have a whole level to gain. I decided that my final place, in one way or another, would be the Golbolar Quarry. It was now time to commence a very long 30-minute grind, relentlessly killing trogs. While some Alliance players were seemingly a bit confused to see me there, we progressed without much issue until an overwhelming dread punched me in the form of a yellow weapon on the funny armor man. There is simply no way for me to repair here.
Oh, wait. Did we just skip that? Okay, no.
Golbolar Quarry. It was now time to commence a very long 30-minute grind, relentlessly killing trogs. While some Alliance players were seemingly a bit confused to see me there, we progressed without much issue until an overwhelming dread punched me in the form of a yellow weapon on the funny armor man. There is simply no way for me to repair here. So alternatively, I will have to gain the last few pieces of XP by punching, which is most likely impossible, or get dropped another dagger. Both options seemed unlikely, so our best bet was just to hope that our current dagger just wouldn't break. Still, I do not know why I doubt Zoner 5's luck after all this time, as we were blessed with a backup dagger just in case it goes downhill. And as predicted, eventually when half a bar away from leveling up, our dagger broke, which would have spelled disaster unless we got the backup. And with it, we could finish off the grind and finally, 4 dead characters later, reach level 10 on a Horde nonetheless. And I know I never made it to a Horde zone as Alliance, but don't you worry. To make up for that, I created an Alliance character and swiftly made my way to all 3 starting zones to prove it possible. And it was significantly easier, if I might add. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.
Cool. Alright.
The Dwarven and Gnome starting zone of Dunmorrow is possibly the most...
How did that loop? Do I have it on loop? Let's see. What can we listen to? Melee only mage? No fucking way.
Classic Hardcore is already World of Warcraft's hardest game mode. It forces you to battle the hazardous 100+ hour journey of reaching level 60 with the chance of losing it all with a singular death. On top of that, some players limit themselves even more by not trading other players, not interacting with the auction house, and in some cases, not even grouping with others. A completely solo experience, where all your available resources are gathered by you and you alone. And if you were to die at any point, it's back to square one. Last year, I attempted this already messed up challenge, but with an additional restriction. I was a mage that could only use spells from the arcane school of magic. No fire, no frost. All the things that make mages extremely overpowered when leveling, Frost Nova, Blizzard, Flame Strike, and more were all not allowed. To deal damage, I had to rely on either Arcane Explosion or Arcane Missiles. But even in this, with everything stacked against me, I managed to reach level 60 without dying a single time, successfully completing the challenge. So, is the game just too easy? No matter how many things I stack on top of each other, there is never any satisfaction at the end of it, just a need for more, and more. But isn't this just life? Aren't we all just running around in circles chasing the next big thing, hoping and praying that the next goal we set is short? Well, there was one thing that really piqued my interest when playing the Arcane Mage. You see, Arcane Missiles is a spell unlocked at level 8, which meant the only thing we had access to was melee. What if instead of having access to only one school of spells, I had access to no damaging spells whatsoever? What if my only way of killing enemies as a mage was by using melee, not only to level 8, but all the way to level 60? Doesn't this sound extremely miserable? Yeah. Am I going to do it? So, what does it entail being a melee-only mage? Well, first of all, I want all damage that I deal to come exclusively from melee attacks. This spans any and all spells dealing any form of damage, even stuff like Frost Nova, Fire Blast, and other things like that. Anything that lets me kill stuff without actually using melee is a no-go. Secondly, I don't want anything casted that affects my enemies in any direct way. So no polymorph or counterspell. This actually leaves us with a few options, namely buffs, like Frost Armor, Shields, and Ice Block, amongst other things like Teleports and Conjuring Food. These are buffs and spells that affect me and not my enemies directly. Most importantly, this will force me to properly engage in melee combat anytime I want something done. The aforementioned Frost Armor actually makes us significantly stronger to our arcane counterpart, at least for the first 8 levels. While it increases our armor and slows the movement speed of enemies that hit us, by far the most valuable trait is its 25% attack speed slow on affected enemies. This is our one light in the darkness, our one saving grace until level 20, where we gain access to new usable spells. Our only form of damage is auto-attacking, which turns combat into somewhat resembling that of RuneScape, where all we can do is click, sit back, and pray that our DPS is higher than that of the enemies. This is why a buff that essentially reduces enemy damage down by 25% is extremely crucial. Another variable of utmost importance is our weapon. It's incredibly difficult to find any cloth gear with stats like strength or attack power. So our DPS ultimately comes down to the weapon itself. As a mage, we have access to one-handed swords and daggers, but with one-handers being significantly weaker than the two-handed counterpart, our only real weapon of choice is a staff. Our success in this challenge will largely come down to whether or not we can stay on top of our weapon upgrades. After spending 1 hour gathering enough coin for one such upgrade, we traveled to Karanos to purchase a walking stick, which comes with a humble 3 times the damage done. Then it was already time to ditch down Moreau. Because we are so astoundingly weak, rotating zones to stay on top of levels will play a huge role in this challenge. Being ahead of our enemy in levels has multiple advantages. 1, armor damage reduction is based on the attacker's level, so the higher we are, the more damage we deal to the enemies. 2, weapon skill is less of a factor, which gives us an easier time to hit. And 3, their health is generally lower than that of higher levels, of course. To show the obscene amount of time it takes to deal with a single enemy, even at a lower level, I'm going to try to fit this entire ad section into a single kill. Did you know that I spent 2 years developing a game with my friend? It's a survivors type game for the phone or tablet where we really tried focusing on a concise experience with depth and replayability, and I think we managed to do just that. There are 30 spells in the game, each with a legendary variant, plus different traits and elements you can combine with synergies and set bonuses for insane effects. And it's free. Please try it. And just like that, 1 level 4 kobold down, possibly hundreds to go. After aiding the denizens of Northshire Abbey, we attempted the bold act of fighting a single kobold tunneler. And when that proved too risky, it was instead time to finish off our own starting zone to secure level 7. In similar fashion, I quickly abandoned Dunmorrow once again to journey across the world to the land of the elves. On my way, I picked up mining, and you wouldn't believe it, blacksmithing. The idea was to craft a few weight stones before ultimately abandoning the art of smithing in favor of, you guessed it, engineering. But the present is now, and my trip to the tree was uneventful. While my reason for being here was previously stated, I do actually have an ulterior motive coming to Teldrassil, and that is in search of a brand new weapon. A quick glance through the available staves in World of Warcraft quickly informs us that the first attainable uncommon staff is actually in Teldrassil, from a quest called the Relics of Awakening, which can be accessed as early as level 4. Do not be fooled by the misleading requirements, as the actual quest itself is one of the harder starting zone adventures in the game, especially for a gnome such as ourselves. To prepare, I trekked to Shadow Glen and secured level 8. By this time, I would have acquired arcane missiles and finally started my challenge, but that is not our current prerogative, nor will it ever be. Now, with all 3 Alliance starting zones finished, it was finally time to attempt questing in the grown-up world. Perhaps I had stressed a bit too much because the next levels flew by in a flash. And at level 9 I attempted to make my way into the Barrow Den to chase our coveted staff. But I very quickly decided against it. Killing even one enemy was a task for me, and we would have to battle our way through masses of Furbolg in a snaking underground dungeon with patrols and respawns left, right and center. Besides, there was already another way easier staff to acquire just around the corner, from a mage specific quest at level 10. So, we battled our way through the rest of our quests, ending up in Darnassus and reaching level 10. Look, I'll be honest, it doesn't really seem like the mage talent tree is specifically tailored around melee, but that's fine. Our farthest goal is reaching the ice barrier, as will increase our combat proficiency by a significant margin, but that's level 40. And until then, there are a few things we can pick up along the way, starting off with Frost Warding, a simple increase to our armor gain from Frost Armor, as well as future upgrade to Frost Ward, if we ever reach it. After securing some cheap food from Darkshore, it was time to head back home, and see to that mage quest. All we have to do is loot one item in a little hut over by Gnomeregan, and we will be rewarded with our best in slot staff until level 12, an easy task for such a boon.
God all day.
Okay, I'd rather not dwell on this because the more I look back at it, the worse it gets. First of all, I thought the item was on the second floor. I thought there would be no enemy on the second floor. I didn't think to bring any potions to help me live. In panic, I tried to run instead of resetting on the elevator and I got dazed running away. But hey, look, it's no problem. I was only level 10, which only took me a total of 5 hours. Anyways, time to go again. Please download my game to make my suffering worth anything. Thank you. This time, knowing I wouldn't get the Teldrassil staff, I chose to forgo the zone entirely, instead spending more time in Elwyn picking up some potions along the way. I also completely skipped blacksmithing this time around because it was a total fluke, opting instead to instantly get engineering. Engineering is, as most of you know, by far the most versatile and useful profession in World of Warcraft for many expansions, but especially in Classic, and especially for somebody like me. Dynamite and bombs will significantly boost my DPS, work on multiple targets, and also are a way for me to pull at range. The latter is something which might be overlooked, but being able to pull enemies from far away is not something I'm normally able to do, and might be crucial. But hey, aren't bombs basically spells? Well, no. Even having access to one damaging spell can almost completely nullify the challenge, because I could kite endlessly. But explosives have a whole minute cooldown, and require constant upkeep and resources that I have to gather myself, considering I am solo self-found. So I am deeming it a fair trade. With all the extra preparation, we once again set off to our last eternal resting place. This time, the plan was a bit more refined. Stay on the elevator to reset aggro, kill the gnome up top because I still thought the item was there, realize it wasn't, eat up and kill the guy downstairs who runs out, subsequently aggroing 3 extra gnomes while my potion was on cooldown. Run back inside while half health to prevent all enemies from respawning, once again reset on the elevator, and then finally grab the item. And just like that, we have a new staff for the next 2 levels. After a while of taking our new weapon for a ride, it was eventually time to visit our cross-continental friends once again, because we happened to not quite be ready to leave the starting zones just yet. Of course, Teldrassil was a literal walk in the park, and upon hitting level 12, we made a small trip to Darkshore and secured our new Biz staff from a very easy run back and forth quest. Now 3 levels later, and with a considerable weapon upgrade, I was finally confident enough to take on the Barrow Den, and collected our now useless uncommon staff. For the next few hours, we travel the world to finish off each starting zone, catch up on engineering, and generally just prep ourselves for the next big adventure. After getting halfway through level 14 with all 3 zones completed, I felt it was finally time to take our first big step into the new world and tackle Darkshore. For real this time. Another thing I overlooked is the importance of buffs in a challenge like this. A stray priest threw me a fortitude when I was out and about, literally doubling my HP. On my way to Darkshore, I made sure to spend our savings on the next staff upgrade, a simple common staff from a vendor. To gain the upper hand against our enemies, there are a few tricks we need to employ. Some of those tricks take the form of engineering or potions, but yet another is first aid. Bit of a weird one since normally any bandaging is interrupted by taking damage, which makes it somewhat useless for us having access to no crowd control. Or so you may think. The talent Frostbite gives our chill effects a 15% chance to freeze our enemies in place, rooting them for 5 seconds. So every time an enemy hits us, there is a chance they will be frozen in place, giving us time to scurry off and get a few ticks of bandaging. Now 15% is not a whole lot, but it turns out to be quite consistent throughout an encounter, since enemies need about 20 hits total to kill me. Reaching level 16 after 13 hours and 40 minutes is starting to make one thing very clear. Having to limit myself to only killing lower level enemies gives us an easier time, but reduces XP gain quite significantly. That plus the fact that kills are just very slow in general, brings us to the obvious conclusion that we simply need more DPS. But looking at our options, getting significant upgrades to our weapon is starting to become a hard task, and even so, the DPS increase between the common and uncommon weapons is incremental. So that leaves us with a choice. Either stay with our low DPS, slowly upgrading our weapons every 5 levels or so from a vendor, or try something crazy. The Staff of Westfall is a rare quality staff attained by bringing the head of Van Cleef to Grand Stout Mantle in Westfall. The DPS increase this would bring is insane, a whole 33% higher than the respective common quality item for the same level. Okay, so all we have to do is clear the dead mines once. Who the hell would bring a melee-only mage to a dungeon? I do not know. But it is a problem we have to solve one way or another, either by threatening to disband my Cataclysm guild in the absence of aid, or by simply begging to any random soul on the roads of Westfall to bring me with. Of course, I'm still following the SSF rules of dungeoneering, which means I can only do each one a single time, and my group members have to be within the correct level range. So blatant boosting is out of the equation. Alas, that is for future melee wizard to worry about. For now, I have my eyes set on a few pieces of gear. Currently, intellect is quite useless for us because, well, we don't cast any spells, but stamina. Stamina is an insanely good stat since it doesn't only increase our chances of survival, it also directly correlates to what enemies we're capable of fighting. One such item comes from the Silver Stream Mine, where after the simple task of collecting 4 pieces of miner's gear, we are awarded with a stunning 4 stamina. Level 18 was not turning out to be a quick level. To prepare for my eventual Dead Mines run, I made sure to finish up all the prerequisite quests, and swimmingly so until it was time to escort the Defias Traitor, a fellow who might be the biggest idiot this side of the kingdoms. Instead of taking any other path rather than the main road through Moonbrook, my man insists on the least inconspicuous path in existence. After promptly failing the quest twice, I thought it best to come back at a later date, perhaps with a few more levels under my belt. Evidently, that was not going to be quick, as we were approaching the 3-hour mark to reach level 19. Even these enemies that are 4 to 5 levels beneath us put up a considerable fight. Casters are even scarier because they do not get affected by our frost armor. So to handle them, we have to use strategies that once again just add more and more time onto the grind. Eventually we did reach level 19. And with our new improved stats, we promptly went and failed the escort quest a 3rd time for good measure, before heading over to Loch Madame to finish up the scraps we left behind. Level 19 is probably the most difficult so far on this grind, and most likely for the foreseeable future. Upon hitting our next level, we'll be granted a plethora of tools to deal with more challenging enemies, and a spell that actually lets us utilize mana. But for now, we are left with only the bottom of the barrel quests, fighting enemies far below our level that even still are challenging to beat. Halfway through the level, and 2 hours into the grind, I once again relocated to Darkshore, where I stayed for another hour. After a bunch of traveling, some quests turned in, and 24 hours played, I hit level 20 on my melee-only mage. And this level is absolutely stacked. Blink, Evocation, Fire Ward to help us against casters, but most importantly, Mana Shield. This spell effectively doubles my total health against physical damage, which completely opens up our game to higher leveled enemies and will hopefully speed up our process a lot. But before we could be satisfied, there was one last thing to take care of. Yeah, okay, basically the entire place was already cleared, but those that weren't stood nary a chance. Between my Fire Ward and Mana Shield, and after 4 attempts, the Defias traitor finally showed us the entrance to the Dead Mines, readying us for the next step of our journey. Also, don't forget to check out my incredible amazing game where I drew every sprite by hand. See ya!
I've played World of Warcraft for a long time. I've seen the Lich King fall, I've seen the Legion crumble. I've even played How to Train Your Dragon. Nope, wrong game. Dragonflight. But one version I've never played or made it anywhere near max level is WoW Classic. And with Season of Discovery, what better time to start than now? So join me as I attempt to take a character all the way from level 1 to level 60 for the first time in World of Warcraft Classic, Season of Discovery. I've decided to play Horde this time around. I fancy a change from my usual Lightning side, and well, only Horde can be the class I'm going to play, and that is a powerful wielder of nature, Shamans. We call ourselves Anti-Jacks, and our journey is about to unfold. Now, I do have access to guides and add-ons, however, for this particular journey, we're not going to be using them. We're going to be playing blind. That means no rune guides, no quest routing. However, we will use Questy, which allows us to see roughly where we need to go on the map. And like every MMO and every version of World of Warcraft, you start off your humble beginnings by killing boars. And here is where I notice a massive XP buff currently going on. It's called Discovery's Delight, and right now it gives you a massive 150% experience and 300% gold increase from quests. So while rarely knowing what order to quest in Classic, I think this is going to be both a blessing and a curse to me. After wiping out boars, we go to our Shaman trainer, and here is where we get our first look at a rune. It's an enchant on your chest that gives you the ability Overload. So naturally, we want to get this done and test out what this is all about. Questing in the Valley of Trials is really therapeutic. We just stand looking at apples, and we're tasked with kindly encouraging peon workers to continue doing their jobs. As we kill scorpions, we loot something called a Diadic icon. I believe this will be used in obtaining our first rune. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, myself included, runes are like an enchantment, separate from, well, enchants that give you abilities and effects. Things like Overload, which is Shaman's Mastery in later expansions, as an effect in Classic. A way to spice things up. When I get poisoned from the scorpion, I notice we start building something called Inspiration on our buffs. So I guess this quest wants us to suffer. After finishing off some quests in the area, and we're already level 5, definitely noticing that XP increase right about now, we right click and we learn the relic. This gives us our first ever rune, Overload. This basically means our spells have a chance to hit again at a bit less damage or healing. A great thing to have, and well, I test it out straight away, and we're just like a machine gun of lightning bolts right now. After finishing off most of the quests in the Valley of Trials, as a shaman we have to get our totems. These allow us to use different type of spells, things like air, earth, fire and water, and power us up. After we complete it, I read the quest text and it says, as small as it may seem, you will come to find that size does not matter, and that even the smallest of things can outlast many others. Yeah, whilst confirmed, size doesn't matter. Let's move swiftly on. After learning our spells and getting our first Earth Totem and completing all the tasks that our town wanted us to do, it's time to wave goodbye to our home. We leave our little village, the Valley of Trials, and a whole world awaits Anti-Jax the Shaman, and we depart our little village in search of adventure. As we leave the safe walls of our valley, we can see what looks to be a little fishing town in the distance, made up of trolls. I also had a message from someone called Kartaf, who asked me to help him out with a rune. I said of course I will, but I wanted to grab all the quests in the area first. We head to the Centaur outpost that have made a home here in Durotar. He asked me to click on him, so I do. and a spirit dies. This also gave me a rune, Ancestral Guidance, that we can put on our legs. This converts 20% of our damage into healing, and 2 runes already at level 8, not bad. A poor level 15 priest shows up just after we've done him, and Kartaf tells him,
I was waiting for like 30 minutes.
and laughs menacingly. Now let me take you over to the Echo Isles, where the trolls have been run out of their original home. Here we have some of the classic quests I've heard so much about, things like looting 8 Crawler Mucus and 4 Juratar Tiger Furs. But first we have to slay all the trolls, and it was a long road. I even teamed up with Jabroni. Me and him become a troll killing machine team together, and it wasn't long before we managed to bring all of them down. Well, that's what I thought. As I swim far, far away, I still haven't realised I missed one. So back to slaughtering the whole tiger, crab and crab people population once more to get all 4 of our furs. After killing some more mobs, we level up to level 10 already, and this is where we can make a choice on our specialisation. Restoration, a healing spec? Nah, not for me. Enhancement, a dual wielding physical attacker? Very, very tempting. But nah, we're going elemental, a hard hitting caster, and this is going to be our path. It then eventually dawns on me the mistake I've made, and I travel all the way back to the village to get one more troll, after close to an hour. In the end, we finally completed all of our tasks, and there is no better feeling than having plenty of quests to turn in. After turning them all in, we gain a full level 2, and I think I'm starting to outlevel this area already, but I'm just enjoying the journey, so we continue. Our next town on our journey is Razor Hill, a place where we can do some tasks for our fellow orcs, but most importantly, learn some new spells and professions. I've decided I'm going to be a miner and an engineer. Engineer will help us in world PvP later on, as I'm sure we're going to come across some of them scum alliances. I spent a bit more time questing, and as I'm roaming the plains of Juratar, I come across a galvanic totem, just randomly placed, and this is definitely something new. So I click it, and it gives us a galvanic icon. If we kill an enemy with lightning bolt 10 times, we'll get a new rune. So I get to work questing and killing mobs. And randomly my friend Forks on his mage Toasty appears. He's around the same level as me too, and says,
Look who we have here.
I'm confused to who it is at first, then I realise who it is. So naturally the first thing I can do is to take the mick out of his level, then challenge him to a duel. I must show him my power already. Our Earth Sharks does over half of his health, and we can just kick practically every one of his casts. So we demolish him easily, and dominance has been asserted, for now. So I enter a Kultiris base. They've seized the castle, and we need to take down the lieutenant. My damage is really good, so I've not had many problems yet. Until now. Both the lieutenant and 2 mobs are on me, but we somehow managed to take him down. Then I go out of mana, but I have a plan. Earthbind and run. Oh shit, another one. I'm fully human and I don't want to die like this. Then the lieutenant spawns once more as I'm trying to loot him, but my inventory's full and we gotta make a break for it. Now I have to delete something in my bag, run back to his body, loot him, and I'm just pulling like every mob with no mana, running up and down. The next 10 minutes are me running away, as I've got 8 stacks of my inspiration too. And it looks like it's a buff, so if I die, I probably lose my progress. There's a hunter here too, but he's not helping me. But I'm also getting hit through walls and levels, and, well, I die. Our first death. Damn. I eventually make it to the top of the castle, and I loot a letter, but it was definitely not worth it. A bit later on, while I'm trying to get Fizzle's Claw, I make the grave error of jumping down, which leads to me pulling everything and dying once more. When I go back to my body, I see a brave warrior appear, and surely me and him together can take down this camp of burning blade orcs. Well, that's what I thought, but he charges straight into the middle of them all, pulls everything, and dies. I make a break for it, running for my dear life, but I get shadow bolted through a mountain. Yup, through a mountain. So I die once more. Maybe 3rd time's the charm. As we are getting food, I see another warrior come, who joins our group, and we take down Fizzle and all the mobs surrounding him. And we get ourselves a pretty sweet shield too. I also looted a chest, and I didn't know this, but we can see other people's runes. I presume that's what this scroll is for, so we leave it for other mages to find on their journey. And our little group disbands. Down here was also a gold mine for mining, quite literally, and I found that time started to pass me by. As if I saw one of these little yellow circles on my map, I just had to go for it. And I'm sure in the end it'll all come in really handy. I finally got around as well to killing 10 mobs with lightning bolt, and now we are fully inspired, meaning we can see what ability this rune gives us. And it gives us shield mastery, which looks absolutely insane, so I try and put the shield rune on my shield, but it doesn't work. So for now, we're going to keep overload over the tanking rune. Now, let me take you to Skull Rock.
Oh my god,
a place
bro,
where I was
it
determined
goes
to
on
kill
your
a mob here.
chest. It goes on your chest. What do you mean?
For a quest item he dropped.
Cute
So let me
fucking
talk
dude,
you
though.
through how many times I died in this cave. Not once. Nope. Not twice. That's death number 3. Also, the run is a little bit of a mission too. So I finally make it to Gazos, I think he's called. He's level 14 and he's got a 14 Void Walker. The fight starts off well, but his Void Walker just kills us. Death number 4. So I go to try him again. I'm way too stubborn to be defeated by this orc. I pull him again this time with full mana, totem set up, I pop Ancestral Guidance, I'm doing great damage, bringing him to half, but the spell pushback is destroying me. And well, it's been that long, the mobs have now all respawned in the cave. I type to my friend, this quest, come help. 5 deaths, 30 minutes, this guy has to die. So my friend comes to help, and well, he's having a lot of difficulties even getting to me. So I offer to go and help him, but I've been here this long, Gazos has now swapped places. This guy is taunting me. I didn't even realize this at the time, and I thought he was just another orc. So I jumped down, and well, you can guess what happens. Yep, they beat down on me, taking me out once more, and time for another corpse run. But after this, we're finally a 2-man team, ready to take down this stupid orc. We attack him, and we finally kill him. And all that for a Eye of Burning Shadows, a quest item, but it was so worth it. Exhausted, relieved, happy, all these emotions are over me right now for killing a goddamn level 14 orc. Forks then asked me to help him with a rune too. He needs my heat. Well, flame shot to be precise. So we head to a little hut where a crab person is frozen in a block of ice, and well, we need to heat it up. But my flame shock and his abilities don't seem to sync very well. We have a little talk about how we will line up our spells, and after a little while, we heat it up to 4 stacks. The crab dies, and we get another rune ourselves. Our orc now spends a little bit of time in the village, smelting and doing our professions. And before we even reach Ocarina, our mining is nearly maxed out, so that's really good too. We're also level 14 at the moment. I'm pretty sure I'm now massively over leveled for this area, so it's about time we start venturing forward. In order to gain access to Fire Nova, we need to do another Shaman quest. This one is called Call to Fire. Now these quests slowly start getting a bit more longer to do. First, we take our first steps onto the barren lands of the Barrens. Tongue twister. One of my favourite zones, and nostalgia is always incredibly high every time I quest here. We head to Groldon Farm, where we now have to do a little bit of running around. I decide to start killing zebras though, to build up inspiration, to find out what rune I earned from the crab person we burned alive earlier. So after taking down 10 zebras with Earth Shock, we learn Molten Blast, a glove rune. And let's see what this thing does. I attack a Plane Strider, and it's a tornado of fire. It looks incredible. I'm really impressed with this spell. Back to the Call of Fire quest. It has us venturing up a mountain in Durotar, and we can see our home from the mountain, and we've already come so far. We need to collect 2 regents for the fire totem, one in the Barrens and one here in Durotar. In Dustwind Cave, we can kill Burning Blade cultists to grab our regent pouch. Then we need to head all the way back to the Barrens to kill Quillboars in order to get a fire tar. And while doing all this, we also hit level 15. Only 10 more levels till our first raid. We finally get the ingredients and we make it all the way back to the mountain where we have to defeat a fire elemental. And honestly, I think our lack of learning spells and gear is starting to show here. We nearly died to this level 12 elemental, but we just about pulled through and take him down. And now for yet another final cross-country trek to turn in Call of Fire and obtain our fire totem. While I'm in the Barrens, I make sure to grab the Crossroads flight path to make traveling around this massive world a little bit easier. And now we fly to the main city, Ocarina. Realizing I'm level 15 without even doing a quest outside of Durotar, we now need to start thinking about moving on. We're also roughly the perfect level for our first dungeon. I team up with a priest called Confride to start our dungeon group. We head back to the dreaded Skull Rock, and he shares with me all the quests from Undercity and Thunderbluff, meaning we don't have to travel around the world for them. We spend a bit of time forming the group and doing the earlier quest chains, and we're ready to go. Well, we would be, but Toxics and the Warrior, who are a tanks and healer, are still doing their quest chain, so we have to wait a little bit. Our Warlock then says he's bored, and he starts clearing the whole dungeon anyways, so me and the others start helping him with Trogs. Eventually, we're all in a dungeon group together, and it's pretty easy. We managed to do the quests and level up to about 17, nearly 18, before even turning any of them in. We snag a couple of green items too, increasing our power, and we're nearly at that beautiful level of 25. I then took a small break because I had to do some Cataclysm raids, but now something really cool happens as I come back on. First I head to Undercity. Now, in the main cities, if you type want to buy Portal, most often or not, you get an instant invite from someone. Now, I don't have much money, if any, at all, but if the mages know you're new, then they sometimes give you free portals, making navigating this huge world much easier. So I get him to portal me to Thunderbluff. Then I decide to really push my luck, and I ask for a second portal to Undercity. This is just so I can hand in all my quests from Ragefire Chasm, and this nice mage comes to me and ports me for free. I call him a legend, and I say he saved my little legs, and this has saved me a massive amount of time. While handing in the quests in Undercity, and getting as lost as I possibly can trying to find Sylvanas, my friend Shadows invites me to a group. He's level 37 and tells me,
We are off to go get you a new rune.
Now, I'm all for finding new runes and abilities, so I happily oblige. He tells me we need to run through Silverpine and then into Hillsbrad, so he's following me and we start our journey for a new rune. As we're running, he tells me how I'm gonna go kill some gnolls at level 18. Luckily, I've got him here too to help. He then tells me,
Then you gotta take lava damage.
So we also have to jump in lava. Fantastic. I make my way to Hillsbrad and then to Taran Mill unscathed. Now I make a big error here. I don't get the flight path, and I have to take a break quickly too, as I'm still raiding on Cataclysm. So I log off for a bit to do that. When I arrive back on, unfortunately my friend isn't around to help me, so with all the information I have to kill gnolls on a farm somewhere south, we set off on our own. Now, I'm a pretty low level for this area. Mobs just kill me. I keep respawning and I try run as south as I can, but I don't make it very far each time before I'm eaten alive by bears. I find what seems to be a place resembling an old farm, and here I see gnolls, and a lot of them. So naturally I run right into the middle of it all, and I die. So I decide I need help, and I call for help in general. Another shaman by the name of Deadbolt is on this quest too, but we're both super low levels, so we don't stand a chance on our own. We need someone else, so I spend a bit of time whispering people in the area, calling out for help, and then a really nice druid called Turkey offers to come and help us. We all meet up, and we're ready to take down portals, making navigating a little bit easier. And now we fly to the main city, Orgrimmar. Realizing I'm level 15 without even doing a quest outside of Jorotar, we now need to start thinking about moving on. We're also roughly the perfect level for our first dungeon. I team up with a priest called Confride to start our dungeon group. We head back to the dreaded Skull Rock, and he shares with me all the quests from Undercity and Thunderbluff, meaning we don't have to travel around the world for them. We spend a bit of time forming the group and doing the earlier quest chains, and we're ready to go. Well, we would be, but Toxics and the Warrior, who are our tanks and healer, are still doing their quest chain, so we have to wait a little bit. Our Warlock then says he's bored, and he starts clearing the whole dungeon anyways, so me and the others start helping him with Trogs. Eventually, we're all in a dungeon group together, and it's pretty easy. We manage to do the quests and level up to about 17, nearly 18, before even turning any of them in. We snag a couple of green items too, increasing our power, and we're nearly at a beautiful level of 25. I then took a small break because I had to do some Cataclysm raids, but now something really cool happens as I come back on. First I head to Undercity. Now, in the main cities, if you type want to buy Portal, most often or not you get an instant invite from someone. Now, I don't have much money, if any, at all, but if the mages know you're new, then they sometimes give you free portals, making navigating this huge world much easier. So I get him to portal me to Thunderbluff. Then I decide to really push my luck, and I ask for a second portal to Undercity. This is just so I can hand in all my quests from Ragefire Chasm, and this nice mage comes to me and ports me for free. I call him a legend, and I say he saved my little legs, and this has saved me a massive amount of time. While handing in the quests in Undercity and getting as lost as I possibly can trying to find Sylvanas, my friend Shadows invites me to a group. He's level 37 and tells me,
We are off to go get you a new rune.
Now, I'm all for finding new runes and abilities, so I happily oblige. He tells me we need to run through Silverpine and then into Hillsbrad, so he's following me and we start our journey for a new rune. As we're running, he tells me how I'm gonna go kill some gnolls at level 18. Luckily, I've got him here too to help. He then tells me,
Then you gotta take lava damage.
So we also have to jump in lava. Fantastic. I make my way to Hillsbrad and then to Taran Mill unscathed. Now I make a big error here. I don't get the flight path, and I have to take a break quickly too, as I'm still raiding on Cataclysm. So I log off for a bit to do that. When I arrive back on, unfortunately my friend isn't around to help me, so with all the information I have to kill gnolls on a farm somewhere south, we set off on our own. Now, I'm a pretty low level for this area. Mobs just kill me. I keep respawning and I try run as south as I can, but I don't make it very far each time before I'm eaten alive by bears. I find what seems to be a place resembling an old farm, and here I see gnolls, and a lot of them. So naturally I run right into the middle of it all, and I die. So I decide I need help, and I call for help in general. Another shaman by the name of Deadbolt is on this quest too, but we're both super low levels, so we don't stand a chance on our own. We need someone else, so I spend a bit of time whispering people in the area, calling out for help, and then a really nice druid called Turkey offers to come and help us. We all meet up, and we're ready to take down a level 27 gnoll as if it's a raid boss, which for Turek, it's not too much of a problem. We managed to take down the shaman, and I'm expecting to loot a rune, and wait, nothing? Have I been lied to? Took all the way from one side of Azeroth for nothing? Maybe it's a lower chance to drop. So Turek says,
let's kill more shamans.
So we carefully move across the field and we pull strategically so we don't die. Me and Deadbolt are practically dead weight here, so we just spam heal our druid friend. We kill a couple more shamans, and this time a Kajuric icon does in fact drop. In order to get this ability, we do in fact need to take lava damage 5 times. So we thank our fellow heroes and we hearthstone out of here. I also have an insane amount of copper, so I quickly leveled my mining up a little bit more too. Now, when I was on Cataclysm, one of my friends noticed I've started Season of Discovery, and he sent me up a care package containing of 50 gold and some potions. Thank you, Pi. But I feel nasty using them to kind of cheese my way through and not having to worry for a bit. So instead of letting it all go to waste, I decided I'll just buy some 12 slot bags, then the rest of it, every penny will go on just increasing my professions. So I buy some Mage Weave bags that seem rather cheap at 38 silver each. I then head to Ragefire Chasm, and here we can take lava damage and we build up inspiration. We nearly die, but I managed to get the 4 stacks and leave the lava without perishing. We leave the instance and we learn our Kajuric icon that gives us none other than Lava Burst. This spell is guaranteed a critical hit with Flame Shock on, and it's extremely iconic to Shamans, Wrath of the Lich King onwards, and that journey for this ability was well worth it. Been a pretty long time since I've trained too, so we head to the Shaman trainer, and damn, I am missing a lot of spells, so I learned them all. After handing in a quest to Thrall, we reach level 19, so the following day I begin my journey once more, and here is how our gear is. A lot of greens, and I made myself some engineering goggles too. I leveled my engineering all the way up to level 150, the max I can for my current level, and my mining is at 124. I didn't want to show you the pain that I had with me just stood there crafting for an eternity and running back and forth for 2 hours to the auction house and anvil, but trust me, I suffered. This means I spent the majority of the gold I received earlier, and we're down to about 8 gold left. With being nearly level 20 and not even having quested outside of Dorotar, it's time for a new zone and new dungeons. We arrive back at the Crossroads, probably my favourite town, and probably one of the favourite towns of most people, on the Horde side. The Barrens is a massive zone with a lot of quests, but it also has a really good dungeon here with plenty of quests too, Wailing Caverns. I encounter a level 60 Troll Mage, and now is the perfect time to try and get away with getting another free portal. We snag a portal to Thunderbluff, and this means we can grab some more dungeon quests as they're scattered all over Azeroth. After heading to Thunderbluff, then all the way back to Ratchet, we can collect a pre-quest called Intact Raptor Horns, where we need to slaughter practically the entire population of raptors to try and get a single horn. I also have to go back and forth to different oases, which has me roaming the barren lands. As I'm doing this, I walk right into the middle of a war between the Centaur and some Horde soldiers. I just try and pass, but as we get close, they kill the Horde, and I'm ganged up on and slaughtered, showcasing the harsh world of WoW, where death can arrive at any moment. While we're practically killing every raptor we find, our group is starting to form nicely. Now Brutal Bank says he has found a rare spawn that roams the Barrens. They drop a really nice quest. However, there's more than one, and they're all like level 25, meaning we are underleveled. But if we can tactically isolate the one that drops the item, we might be able to bring it down. After all, we have a healer and a tank and 2 DPS. I thought Coleman the healer was coming with me, but he seems to have gone off in a separate location. These are going to be tough to take down. So we pull to try and isolate, then the warrior AoE taunts everything, and well, he dies. We then run around kiting the ads, but this is way too brutal and I die too. Our healer is MIA still, so Forks asks him to help out with the elites. He then says,
"You are inside?"
And Forks says, "No, look at the map." He then replies with,
"I go."
So shortly after, the warrior decides to pull a raptor, then kite it straight into the elites, and well, he dies again, and I'm not sure we can kill these. Coleman, our healer, runs over, and I say, "Don't attack them." He then says,
"I will take it."
Pulls everything and dies, then says,
"OMG, who pull it?"
Yeah, we've not even started this dungeon yet. Our tank then leaves, I leave, and well, that's the end of that group. However, shortly after I find someone looking for a DPS and I join the group. And look who else has joined the group. Yep, Coleman. And well, it's time to head to Wailing Caverns, a massive dungeon with plenty of quests, bosses and loot. My group has already cleared a lot of trash towards the dungeon, so it's smooth sailing on the elites until we get there. Now the quests here range from very easy, just killing things, to super RNG, like getting 20 Deviate hides. It doesn't start off well with our tank dying quite easily because he's got a lot of grey gear, but that soon changes. We manage to kill quite a lot of bosses and trash pretty easily, and we take down the turtle boss who drops a white shield. Being the kind Samaritan I am, even though we looted it, I trade it to the tank to try and help him survive this dungeon. In here I'm also getting a crap ton of XP. We're already level 20, nearly 21, and even though Coleman's antics a little earlier was questionable, he's doing okay at keeping us all alive. He then tells us,
I must go WC.
As the tank dies once more, but we then continue for a little bit without him. In fact, it was quite a while, and the leader says,
Druid is taking a big seams.
And we ding level 21. We are flying through. Some more time passes, and Coleman still isn't back, but we sort of make it through without any deaths. I end up dying, but then Coleman finally comes back, and JXD asks him,
Did you take a nice caca?
Now, these druid mobs are a pain in the arse. They put you to sleep, and I completely forgot that Tremor Totem negates this. I also see Good Mood, the shaman, is using a spell called Shamanistic Rage, which makes you take less damage and restores mana. He tells me where to get it, and we can just buy it from the main town. That is actually insane, so we definitely know what we have to do after too. So this dungeon is a long one, so dying and wiping really sucks. We managed to avoid anything like that until this room. We managed to aggro everything. Our tank dies, then our shaman and rogue. Coleman is completely tapped of mana, but he levels up. Perhaps we can survive? No. He gets put to sleep. I don't realize I can tremor it, and I die. Meaning, we all wipe, and then we have to spend a long time running back to the dungeon, and then back to where we eventually was. Eventually we make it to Verdam the Ever-Living, and here we can see our lava burst putting in work, hitting super hard. We kill him, and a nice shield drops, a big upgrade for us. We are now nearly level 22 here as well, and we still have one boss left to kill. You then have to escort the world's slowest Tauren to a chamber, and here we can try and stop our night elf friend from having bad dreams. Even after clearing out every single raptor in this dungeon, I only have 5 out of the 20 Deviate hides. Ugh. Just before we kill the last boss, we ding level 22. The warrior's patience with Coleman is completely gone, and he says,
Can you heal? Instead of jumping.
And Coleman just replies with a smiley face. We then take on Mutinous the Devourer, and we take him out. My damage with Lava Burst is insanely high, and I end up practically tanking him the whole time, and he drops a ring, a massive upgrade. We all need, and I get lucky, and I win it with a high 93 roll, and our gear is starting to increase by quite a lot now. With all that done, we bid our group farewell. I only managed to complete 3 quests, but they will give us a lot of experience. As soon as I left, my friend Forks invites me to another group as he wants to do it, and I'm like, sure, I can finish off the quest that I didn't do. We're about to join, and look who joins us again. Yep, Coleman the Druid. I'm needing to grab a 99-year-old port that's just outside of this dungeon from a goblin, but as I'm on my own, I die. And after all my deaths, my armor is broken. Coleman puts in the party chat that
I must repair items and buy water.
And he takes Reg Sickness, giving him a 10-minute debuff that makes you super weak. The warrior is super confused about this, and so is the leader, and they are going in on poor Coleman for his choice of actions. Then Coleman's like, alright, and goes AFK. The leader and his friend leave, and I don't even get to grab the port. I spent a bit of time now handing in my already completed quest for experience. I then form a new group with my friend Forks and some other adventurers that are a much higher level than my old group. We then blast through the dungeon. I even got my first set of shoulder pads. Now we're looking like a proper adventurer. We level up to 23, nearly 24 from this next one, and the XP gain is just massive. We completed this so much quicker than the first time around, and after doing this dungeon twice, we still only have 13 hides. What the Blizzard? I decided, you know what, I ain't doing this a third time. I abandoned the quest and finally want to move on from Wailing Caverns. Considering the only questing I've done is Dorotar, my own shaman quests, and some dungeons, we're already at a really good level. After running around the world once more to hand in all of my Wailing Caverns quests, we're approaching level 25, where the Phase 1 content lies, or shall we say, our first raid. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to one of the worst quests in WoW for a shaman, or in fact, for anyone if you was able to do it. Now the difficulty of this quest isn't hard, it's just it requires A lot.
Water totem
and I
quest.
mean
I've
a
done it
lot
so
of
many
traveling.
times, but it's
Blizzard
like,
knew this, so they
I don't
gave
care.
Shaman's Golf
It's
Wolf
never
at level
bothered me.
20, allowing you to move faster in the open world. The quest I'm talking about is, of course, none other than Call of Water. So I'm going to walk you through this quest as quickly as I can. But this does not take into account the amount of running, portals, and cross-country you have to do. Let's begin. But first, while I was flying through the plains of Mulgore, coming up to Thunderbluff with the sky gleaming, I was in awe at the sheer size and beauty of the world. Something in later versions of the game was lost to me, and I really came to understanding, even with XP buffs, I'm on a journey. Okay, back to Call of Water. We need to head right to the bottom of the Barrens, and I'm in Thunderbluff with no flight plan. I died from jumping off a mountain that I was sure I would survive. Then we take res sickness. Then we have to cross the entirety of Mulgore on foot to arrive at Camp Naraho. Probably butchered that name. And we can grab a flight path, something we definitely need later on, but you can probably guess I didn't grab it again. Then we have to run all the way south to speak to this douchebag Brian, who asks us to fill up an empty brown water skin from the pool down below. I mean, why can't you just walk there and do it yourself? Whatever. After doing this, she then wants us to go to the other side of the world, Eastern Kingdoms, Tara Mill in fact, to fill it up again at that well. So an eternity later, when we finally arrive at Undercity, do you remember when I went and got the lava burst rune earlier on and forgot to get the flight plan? Yep. Would have came in handy right about now. So we have to fly to Silver Pine Forest and then make our way to Hillsbrad once more on foot. Here I encountered 2 Alliance players slaughtering a fellow Horde member, and at my level the natural instinct comes in. I'm a hero of the Horde and I choose to run away. Sorry buddy, I for a second wanted to help him out, but he died. And seeing their red levels, I decided my life is worth more. But don't worry, as I grow in power, the Alliance will suffer. I will make sure of it. So we arrive at Tara Mill, and we fill up the flask once more. Can you guess where we hand it in? Yep. Back at the bottom of the Barrens. So we then travel all the way back to Calibur, and at the Flight Master, I still haven't realised I have not got the flight path for the camp. So after a massive run south from the crossroads, once more, we arrive back at Brine, and at this point, I just want to lava burst her in the head. She now wants us to fill another blue water skin at Ashenvale, a place I've never been. We do level up to 25 here, allowing us to take on my first raid, but I'm determined to finish off this goddamn quest before I continue. So 20 minutes later, I arrive in Ashenvale, and what awaits me at this beautiful zone with great music and a good vibe? Yeah, a skull level rogue who just one-shots me with ambush, and my blood pressure is rising. Much later, I make it to the well, where we fill it up once more. Well, we would, but I then die to all the mobs there, and have to corpse run. And you would think, okay, Auntie Jax, you've done a lot. That's the end of this quest, right? Wrong. After going back to Brine, after travelling here, there and everywhere, she now wants us to go to Islam Waterseer near Ratchet. That's not too bad now, as I've got some flight paths, so only a little bit more running and we complete this. But then this little shithead tells me, okay, go and cross the world again and go back to Silver Pine Forest. No, I'm not kidding. So an eternity later, we make it to Silver Pine Forest once more. We defeat a corrupted water elemental and hand in the quest. Surely we speak to the water elemental and he gives us a water totem, right? Right? No. Back to the Barrens we go. But at least this is the final journey we have to make. With no Hearthstone either, I make the long journey home. Finally speaking to Islam Waterseer and all that for a water totem and healing stream that heals for about 4. At this point, I've suffered so much, I decide to jump in the water in front of her and drown while she watches. How's that for a water quest? On the plus side, I sold the pattern I got earlier from Wailing Cabins for 30 gold. So I'm feeling the ups and the downs of this classic SOD experience, I must say. Now it's time for our first raid of Season of Discovery, as Blizzard released this game with a level cap. Each level cap brought a new raid and new experiences. At 25, it's Blackfather on Deeps, a dungeon that's been revamped. Now I've got no idea what to expect going into this. We've got a full group and a max level shaman. I don't know tactics or anything. So we make our way in, and I'm immediately shocked by the change. While the dungeon looks the same as I know, there's a boss, a water elemental, stood on the platform that I fell down too many times to count. Forks, my friend, or Toasty told me, don't die in bosses as they give you a massive amount of experience. So I'm nervous as I don't know what will happen. So we pull the first boss and I'm blasting away. I'm getting hit by a tornado or frostbolt. For some reason, in my little peanut brain, I don't think to move out of the AoE, and I die on the first boss. And I'm also the only person to die on this boss. Mechanically, it looks kinda easy, but why did I not move out of the tornado? A cloak drops with a massive 6 intellect, so I need on that, and I pass on some tank shoulders. And out of everyone that needs, we win both items. What the hell is my luck right now? Probably just used up all of my rolls though. We put on the flowing scarf, and we continue deep into the raid. I also get a quest shared with me too, so that's pretty nice. The second boss is a turtle, although he's got a little bit bigger than the last time I've seen him. Once again, I'm going into this fight blind, but I really don't want to die again, as I want to see how much XP you get for killing these. We pulled the boss, and flame shots are stacked, and I start lava bursting. He shoots off these little orbs on the ground, and I decide I probably shouldn't stand on these, although I do, and once again, I nearly die. I'm not focusing on damage that much right now, I'm just focusing on actually surviving. It's not long before we bring down the oversized turtle, and he drops a pretty awesome clamweave tunic. This would be a huge upgrade for us. However, we lose this to an enhancement shaman, Croc. Now I know Classic has weird stat distributions and stuff, but surely an enhancement doesn't need too much intellect at a low level, right? It's got 3 agility, but his chest has 5. So at this moment, I'm growing skeptical of this Tauren, and I will soon be proven right. The next boss is Lady Sorroves, a Naga, but she's dying so fast. I'm speaking to the enhancement too to educate myself a little bit better on how stats and specs work in Classic, but he's not really giving me much to go with. And wow, you get 8k experience per boss. It's a massive amount, and I can see why people are still doing this. Nothing good drops for us, so we continue. We arrive in a room full of spectral eggs, and a ghostly Murloc boss, Guileheist, probably butchered that, stands awaiting. Now I hope I don't die again here. His HP is disappearing, and I'm thinking, this is pretty easy, what was I worried about? But then the boss starts healing, and a shit ton of Murlocs start charging around, and I'm dodging them for my dear life. As much as I'm nervous, this is pretty cool. Somebody does die, but we nuke the boss down once more. Then he does a Murloc dance once again, and I managed to find a little safe spot behind the eggs that I took cover at. No Murlocs decided to bother me, and I was stood there thinking I'm so proud that I finally might have figured out a boss. We then take down the oversized Murloc, and he drops nothing for us. But our good old friend Uncle Croc is eating good right now. Needed on practically everything. You don't actually have much downtime between bosses as you take on Lorgus Jet next. This guy is a wannabe shaman who summons totems everywhere. Now it doesn't take a rocket science to know totems probably equal bad, so I kill them as quick as I can, especially when I see a skull marker appear on a lightning shield one. So we deal with the totems and we bring down Lorgus Jet, who drops a really good mace for our fellow enhancement shaman Uncle Croc, who of course needs it and wins it, as it's an upgrade, and I'm happy for him. Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. He also needs on my intellect shoulders that drops from a mob, and takes him away from me, the little shit. But I guess it's still good for his healing and damage. Anyhow, we arrive at what I was told the hardest boss in this instant, Twilight Lord Kelrus. He casts shadowy chains, and if you don't kick it, it does a lot of damage and you can die. Now we've got 4 shamans and 2 rogues, so surely kick shouldn't be an issue, right? Well, no, they are. 2 people die. We bring the boss pretty low before he goes into a big rage and is practically immune to kicks, so you have to burn him. He becomes a massive orc, but with a level 60 shaman helping, it's not much of an issue. Although I do go to 1% and I'm spamming healing wave, but I die. But a epic freaking staff drops, Rod of the Ancient Sleepwalker, and oh my god, look at these stats, incredible. And look who needs on this staff. The enhancement shaman. I then say to him, let me guess, an enhancement weapon too, and he replies with,
Sure is.
Thankfully, a Boomkin wins it, although he did roll the second highest, and the leader is happy it went to the Boomy and not the enhancement too. Damn, what a huge weapon. It stings we didn't win it, but this gives me hope going forward. We arrive at the last boss of Kumai, where the gist of this fight is to just basically stand behind him from what I've gathered to dodge several of his breath attacks. We burn him down very quickly, making sure not to perish this time, and he drops something that's like a quest item. I'm not sure what it does or what it rewards, but I need it nonetheless. We don't win it, but we do win a lot of crap blues we can't use, so they'll be vended for a good old coin. And that's it, our first raid of Season of Discovery done. The hardest part was trying to escape the raid with all the elite mobs, but my hero B-Twits came to my rescue and pulled everything, saving me from certain death. I went and handed in all the quests all over Azeroth, and also purchased Shamanistic Rage and Ultimate Recall books from this vendor in Orgrimmar that my good old Shaman friend told me about back in Wailing Caverns, giving me 2 really good Shaman spells. In total from this raid we went to level 27 too. Now I was going to end the video here, but a few more good things happened I want to talk about. While I'm venturing in Ashenvale, I come across an Alliance player and they all seem to be going towards a certain direction, so I follow like a rabid wolf. He's too scared to fight me. I also noticed there's some high levels here too, so I opt not to take the chance. I speak to this quartermaster and we can buy a rune of burn. The druid then being a dum-dum attacks me and the guards obliterate him. This rune costs a pretty penny at 1 gold 60, but we get burn, allowing our flame shot to AoE, gain a 6-second duration, do 100% more damage, and give us a spell power buff. Holy moly, we are powering up. While in Ashenvale, it's prime time to test out my new runes with some little PvP. As I'm questing, I encounter a night elf called Agathon. Now me being one to love PvP, I sneak up on him in my Ghost Wolf and I cast a flame shot. Before he can react, I lava burst him as he's trying to run away, and we just one-shot the poor night elf. Me wanting to get revenge for my fallen comrade back at Hillsbrad, I decide to go into Ghost Wolf and hide behind a tree to take out Agathon once more. He takes the bait thinking I've left the area and meets another grisly end. We roar at him showcasing our power, and now, once more, I pretend to run away until he releases his spirit. Then we do a U-turn and we run back. I hide behind the tree again for a while, but Agathon doesn't resurrect for a long time. However, he then does. But he's nowhere to be seen until I find him shadow melding in the tree, and now I toy with my prey. I pretend like I don't know he's there, looking around to see where he could be, and I know he's panicking deep inside. So I drop a Fire Nova totem, and the little shit drops a freezing trap on me and aspects of the cheaters away. Oh, it's on now. I go into Ghost Wolf and I chase him down. He tries his good old shadow meld technique, but I'm not letting him trap me this time. He then stands there and accepts his fate. We wave goodbye to him and we start casting a meatball to his face, and now we will leave the Night Elf be, as he's not a worthy opponent for me. About an hour passes now and I'm doing some more quests in Ashenvale, while I try and find one more Black Fathom Deeps raids as it's been reset. And look who it is! Not learning the lesson. You can't just run around this place freely. I decide he's got to pay once more, so we just cast a Lava Burst and kill him again. For the finale of this video, we do one more Black Fathom Deep raids. I'm level 28 and I really want to try and snag some good loot. We once again have a level 60 helping us out. I'm not sure why they run this, I guess they're just kind people. I'm practically healing these bosses as we don't have many healers in this group. Thanks to my amazing healing skills, I'm most certainly not getting thrown off the edge. We kill the first boss and nothing good for us drops. We then proceed once more to the Big Turtle, and somebody's made me a goblin somehow, but I don't even have casting animations, it looks super weird. We take on the Big Turtle once more, and nobody picks up aggro off this crab, so it just kills me and I lose my goblin outfit, but I do thankfully get combat res, so we thankfully don't lose the experience from this boss. And this boss drops Clamweave Tunic again, a really nice chest that would be an upgrade, and we actually win this, and Anti-Jax is looking good. Lady Severus takes a little while to kill, but we do bring her down, and some nice shoulder pads drop with 10 intellect plus 5 spirit. So I rolled need once more, and what do you know, we win them too. And the mass we greeded, we also win. Okay, I most definitely have used up my luck again, but hopefully not. On the Murloc boss, a couple of people died to the Shadow Murlocs as I just stand in the back spamming healing waves for the life of me. Is even our level 60 mage is taking a bit of damage too, but the boss dies, and this is where I see my first increases damage and healing spell effect. This helmet is massive, like such a big item, but I've already won a few items, so we don't get lucky and win this. The Tolton boss, Locust Jet, dies without much issues too. He then drops a chest piece and bracers, even more amazing spellcaster loot, but the druid wins another piece of gear, and the level 43 elemental shaman wins the chest piece too. Some of these items are that good that even higher levels are using them. On the second to last boss, the Twilight Lord, I made sure nobody died by healing like a pro. Loot wise, really good stuff for a warlock, but nothing for good old Anti-Jax. Which brings us to the final boss. No deaths, we bring him down, and once again the pearl drops, and a decent enough chest piece that has a little more intellect than ours, but we don't win it or the pearl. We leave the raid at nearly level 30 with a good few upgrades to our gear too. The kind rogue offers me the chest piece, which gives me some more armor, intellect and stamina, which is very kind of him. And this is how our hero looks right now. Level 29 with some powerful shoulders and a cloak and a chest piece from a raid. We also have 2 rings providing us with good intellect and some excellent runes too. Next time, we're going to journey through the war zone of Stranglethorn Vale and try and conquer the Raid of Gnomragon in our adventure from zero to hero on Season of Discovery. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new for more World of Warcraft content. Check out my other videos on screen now, me and YouTube think you'll like them. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I think like any second now or something, I might get a whisper from like one of those dudes. I normally like I don't have to look for raids. Normally the raids are they're looking for me. Like I got invited to the last MC. I didn't have to look for that group. They like whispered me. And then the last two like World Boss and Oni groups that I've been in, like it's hosted by More Dots. They've like whispered me basically. Got me to like off tank for Oni and like just DPS for the other two bosses. So I haven't had to look, but maybe or maybe not. Like since it's a reset day, I don't know if they do it today. So I don't know. But like the last few times I've raided, people ask me to join. What the hell? Why is it on Walking Dead? What the fuck? Why did it go there? Anyways. I think that was like my other camera or something that like that was on my Walking Dead game. Like, what is that camera? Oh, it's like a corner of my camera. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how long that was up. All right. We will be re-getting our first 100 gold from the rebuild after getting fucking cleaned from death rolls. Maybe I'll stay on a bit longer, maybe get like 150, 200 gold for this session here. Just to, around where I started at the death rolls, I was at 250 gold, and I went up from winning, and then I lost it all, so... Getting around to 250 would be where I last left off naturally without having to gamble.
Top 10 rarest titles in WoW. Before we watch this video, as a chat, what do you guys think the top 10 rarest titles are in WoW? Wouldn't it just be 10 rank 1 titles? Wouldn't that just be it?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, obviously there's
the Undying.
There's the mount and title you get for opening the gates. What's it called?
Oh, the
World First Scarab Lord, yeah. Obviously there's Scarab Lord. What else is a rare title? Undying, Immortal, Insane, Bloodsteel Admiral. It's gotta just be the rank 1 titles, like all 10 of them, right? Scarab Lord and then rank 1 titles. Let's take a look though.
A player's title, you can tell right away if they are world, PvE, or PvP oriented. It shows their prestige in a very specific area and oftentimes delivers the highest prestige for a single person in that category. In this list, we're going to go over some of the rarest titles that you can come across in all of WoW. Starting us off at number 10, we have the Black Harvest title. This title was previously obtainable during Mist of Pandaria and only from patch 5.2 to the very beginning of Warlord of Draenor. If you were a Warlock player when this title was obtainable...
So, there was a quest in Mist of Pandaria where Warlocks could get green fire, and it was like a whole Warlock specific quest line, and like all your like Fellfire shit, like there was normally like red fire spells, like that got turned all green spells. Even the icons like in your own UI. I got that on my Warlock alts back in MoP. Like I played every class in MoP actually. There was enough it was an alt friendly expansion. But I only like raided on a few of them. I PvP'd on all of them, so I knew how every single class worked, so I could like beat their ass in arena on my hunter. But yeah, let's let this continue on. I've got that title on one of my Warlocks on like my retail account.
You may recognize it. But to the uninformed player, this title was awarded to Warlocks who completed the special Green Fire scenario during Mist of Pandaria.
That was actually
This
cool.
scenario was created exclusively for Warlocks, and to begin the quest chain for the Green Fire...
Dude, everyone in the chat says, I have that, I have that, I have that. Like, we're talking about the top 10 rarest titles ever in the game, and multiple people in the chat have it. There's no way it's that rare. J5, thanks for the Twitch Prime. Welcome in. Enjoy your lack of ads. It was the Green Fire Lock quest, which was actually a cool quest, by the way. I was really happy they added that.
You would need to loot the sealed tome of the Lost Legion. This tome would drop from a large assortment of rare NPCs along the Isle of Thunder at complete random.
So it's not that
rare. It was pretty rare
Everyone
to come
has
across,
this, bro.
but wasn't actually bind and pick up if you were to come across it, as the tooltip text implies. You had to have a Warlock character bind it to themselves first with a Hellstone to start the quest chain, so you could mail it to your characters, friends, or even sell the auction house for a considerable amount of gold. Once you obtained the tome and started the quest chain, however, you would eventually arrive at Black Temple. You would place your character into a scenario instance with a single boss and 0 trash mobs. At the time, this boss was very challenging to players and could be viewed as a sort of introduction to the future Mage Tower of WoW.
I wish there was more stuff like this in WoW. This might be a little controversial, but I think some of the solo PvE content in WoW is some of the best content ever. Mage Tower, stuff like this. Yesterday we were like doing solo BFD raids like with Savix and hardcore in itself of like the SSF hardcore challenge, right? I feel like solo PvE content is so good. So good.
What it basically means is that Kenrithad Ebonlock, the boss in question, was designed like a raid boss to be soloed by a singular Warlock character. It required an almost perfect master of the Warlock class during Mr. Pandera's inception, utilizing their demonic gateway, DPS skills, pet management, CC abilities, and more to a strong degree. It also, obviously, was a heavy gear check to the Warlock. So even if you really understood the class, you needed to have the Warlock as geared to the teeth as possible to have.
For this quest, couldn't you like have another Warlock do it for you though? Or something? I remember people like buying and selling Green Fire. Like another, oh, you couldn't? You had to solo it? Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool then. That's pretty cool if you had to solo it. I don't know why I was thinking that.
Have a better shot. Upon defeating Kenrithad, the Warlock would receive the Codex of Xerath passive ability in their spell journal. What this does is essentially turn any existing fire spell in the Warlock's arsenal, primarily Destruction Warlock, into a Fel Fire appearance rather than the usual orange and red. It also would make a Demonology Warlock's demon form from Metamorphosis into a green color rather than the usual purple. But this, like the title, Metamorphosis, was removed. Basically, if it was fire, it was now green, including the Dread and Felstead class mounts. It was really only Affliction that didn't get much love from this questline, and the removal of Metamorphosis, it seems only the Destruction Warlocks are winning. Regardless, you can still do this questline if you want it for your character, and you can go back and turn off the green fire whenever you so choose also. However, this Of the Black Harvest title was awarded to Warlock players who specifically killed Kenrithad during Mists of Pandaria when it was the current expansion. If you didn't play when Mists of Pandaria was current, or just weren't able to bring down Kenrithad at the time, this achievement is all but null to you now.
Bro, I feel like there's no way this is top 10 rarest title. There's no way. Because like, yeah, like the amount of Warlocks that had this, it must have been at least hundreds, like thousands, right? Like thousands of people have this title, which means it's not that rare.
Given to players via the Breaker of the Black Harvest achievement. Basically, if you were an active Warlock in Mists of Pandaria, chances are you had this achievement.
Right.
Even then, not many actually received it, as only 2% of all players have the title. This also needs to consider that while the title is account-wide, it may only be used by Warlock players. Additionally, not everyone plays Warlock, so they may have never known this title actually exists in the first place. Definitely not the most prestigious of titles in WoW, but certainly among the rarest. And at number 9, we have The Immortal and the Undying. Come across, but wasn't actually bind and pick up if you were to come across it.
The Immortal and Undying are definitely
You had to have a
rare
Warlock
ones.
character bind it to themselves first with a Hellstone to start the quest chain, so you could mail it to your characters, friends, or even sell the auction house for a considerable amount of gold. Once you obtained the tome and started the quest chain, however, you would eventually arrive at Black Temple. You would place your character into a scenario instance with a single boss and 0 trash mobs. At the time, this boss was very challenging to players and can be viewed as a sort of introduction to the future Mage Tower of WoW.
I wish there was more stuff like this in WoW. This might be a little controversial, but I think some of the solo PvE content in WoW is some of the best content ever.
Oh yeah, that
Mage
I forget what
Tower,
it was called. There's
stuff
another
like
one.
this. Yesterday we were like doing solo BFD raids like with Savix and hardcore in itself of like the SSF hardcore
It's
challenge,
like in Orgrimmar
right?
and like in the
I feel like solo PvE content is so
for Alliance.
good. So good.
Where
What it
you would
basically
fight
means is that
bosses
Kenrith
1v1.
Ebonlock, the boss in question, was designed like a raid boss to be soloed by a singular Warlock character. It required an almost perfect master of the Warlock class during Mr. Pandaria's inception, utilizing their demonic gateway, DPS skills, pet management, CC abilities, and more to a strong degree. It also, obviously, was a heavy gear check to the Warlock. So even if you really understood the class, you needed to have the Warlock as geared to the teeth as possible to have.
For this quest, couldn't you like have another Warlock do it for you though?
No.
Or something? I remember people like buying and selling green fire. Like another. Oh, you couldn't? You had to solo it? Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool then. That's pretty cool if you had to solo it. I don't know why I was thinking that.
Have a better shot.
I think he
Upon
was just-
defeating Kenrith,
what
the
Zari
Warlock
was
would receive
thinking
the
of
Codex
was,
of
like,
Xerath passive ability in the
getting
spell
the,
journal. What this
quest
does
items
is
that
essentially
you could
turn
sell
any existing
started.
fire spell in the Warlock's arsenal, primarily Destruction Warlock, into a Fel Fire appearance rather than the usual orange and red.
That's
it also
so
would make
cool,
a Demonology
man.
Warlock's demon form from Metamorphosis into a green color rather than the usual purple.
That's
But
so
this, like the
cool.
title, Metamorphosis, was removed. Basically, if it was fire, it was now green, including the Dread and Felstead class mounts. It was really only Affliction that didn't get much love from this questline, and the removal of Metamorphosis, it seems only the Destruction Warlocks are winning. Regardless, you can still do this questline if you want it for your character, and you can go back and turn off the green fire whenever you so choose also. However, this Of the Black Harvest title was awarded to Warlock players who specifically killed Kenrith during Mr. Pandaria when it was the current expansion. If you didn't play when
I
Mr.
think this
Pandaria
thing
was
is
current,
good,
or
right?
just
Maybe I
weren't
should
able to
sell
bring
it.
down Kenrith at the time, this
Mythical
achievement is
Shield
all but
Spike,
null
unless
to you
there's,
now.
like, no,
It was
I
Bro,
think
I feel like there's
Thorium
no
Shield
way this
Spike
is
is
top
better.
10
Never mind,
rarest
I'll
title.
just
There's
bet that.
no way. Because, like, yeah, like the amount of Warlocks that had this, it must have been at least hundreds. Like, thousands, right? Like, thousands of people have this title, which means it's not that rare.
Given to players
definitely
via the
got it
Breaker
on
of
my
the
Warlock.
Harvest achievement. Basically, if you were an active Warlock in Mr. Pandaria, chances are you had this achievement.
Right.
Even then, not many actually received it, as only 2% of all players have the title. This also needs to consider that while the title is account-wide, it may only be used by Warlock players. Additionally, not everyone plays Warlock, so they may have never known this title actually exists in the first place. Definitely not the most prestigious of titles in WoW, but certainly among the rarest. And at number 9, we have the Immortal and the Undying. These titles were added to Wrath of the Lich King Ramus rather than its vanilla counterpart it replaced. It was one of the very first achievement title rewards in all of WoW, as Wrath itself introduced achievements as a whole. Achievements were added into WoW to help.
How many people have rank 1 titles? So basically, every season, there's a certain number of people that get it. It's a percentage. So 0.1% of the ladder gets it. If there's a lot of people playing, 0.1% of the ladder is much larger. If there's fewer, then it's fewer. One of the rarest rank 1 titles of all time, it was like top 60 players that got it. I believe on Horde, and then another like 50, 60 on Alliance, so like around a little over 100. So a little over 100 players in the game have that title. Ever. It was one time. 100 players in the entire game. So you compare that to a title that we just like looked at, where thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 players have a title. I mean, it's not even close.
Help give the old world a bigger reason to travel back and complete its activities for special rewards. This isn't to say the current expansion is devoid of any of these rewards as well, of course. Essentially, what you had to do for these achievements was to zone into next Ramus raid and defeat all 15 boss encounters without a single death in your raid occurring. It was safe to die in trash mobs, but even if one person perished during Kelphin's Odd, you failed. The Undying was reward for completing Naxxramas on 10-man mode, as normal heroic raiding hadn't been a thing yet, and was instead divided based on the amount of people that were present. With 10 people, both the gear and difficulty of the raid was scaled down. For the Immortal, you would need to complete the raid with 0 deaths on 25-man, however. It was very stressful, and players have seen a re-emergence of the stress in the Wrath of the Lich King Classic, where players could journey back into Naxxramas like it was in the days of old. Though, this entry is speaking on the rarity of titles and retail WoW. These titles would be removed from the game upon the release of the Cataclysm expansion. This means that while Naxxramas was the very first rated expansion, it could be obtained all the way up until Ruby Sanctum and Icecrown Citadel, massively outscaling the previous gear requirements. Completing the raid following the given circumstances would award achievements of the titles under the same name, allowing you to show off your fearlessness in the face of the Scourge. Like mentioned though, these titles were only obtainable during Wrath. Even with the fact you could grossly outgear the content to obtain these achievements, players just still weren't that good at the game. There was much less resources.
I mean, getting this back in the day was probably pretty hard. I mean, I remember even in Wrath, trying to get it, like the start of Wrath, back in, what was it, 2022 or something? 2021 maybe, like on the relaunch, and it was still not super easy to get it. I mean, you could get it, but like back in the day, it was probably like, bro, someone's gonna mess up, or like Jimmy's gonna freaking disconnect again because his dad's gonna pull the power plug because he's on too late and he's not supposed to be raiding or something, like, you know what I mean?
For guides at their disposal, and certainly less add-ons to improve their function. Nowadays, you have tons of weakors that tell you the perfect timing of anything boss related. This is shown around the fact that while Wrath was the peak of WoW subscribers, the Undying has a collection rate of 5%, and the Immortal at 1.2%. You'd imagine it'd be a bit higher considering raiding was the endgame of WoW, and there wasn't much else to do besides completing achievements anyway. It also has to be considered that a lot of people have come to play WoW since it was removed, making the number appear lower than it may have actually been back in Wrath. Regardless, it's one of the rarest titles to come across in WoW, and if you spot someone with it, you can rest assured they were pretty hardcore back in the Wrath era. And at number 8, we have the Warlord of Draenor. This title is awarded to players who complete the achievement of the exact same name. Essentially, what you had to do was complete every single Nemesis quest at the Gladiator Sanctum within your garrison. Garrisons were Blizzard's attempt to create player housing, and while they may have failed or not, players could decide what buildings inhabited the garrisons.
Oh my gosh, this expansion,
one of these buildings was the Gladiator Sanctum, which essentially allows you to begin special PvP-only quest achievements. Among these are the Nemesis titles, which in their own right are really rare as well. These quests were basically killing 500 of a certain race within the Ashran Epic Battleground or open world Ashran. So if you wanted the Butcher title, you need to kill 500 Tauren characters. You could also only work on one quest at a time, so you can't actively farm the undead title at the same time. Essentially, you need to kill 3,500 kills of the opposing faction if you were insanely blessed with kills or had friends that could help you farm them out. Seeing as you may need 500 kills of a certain race, and they can only be obtained within Ashran, if you have no help, it could take you literally months just for this process alone. Artificially, there just simply is more human characters made in WoW than a gnome, for example. So when you begin working on the gnome being title for the Warlord of Draenor title, you're going to be finding much less gnomes in the enemy team to earn your credit, possibly only earning a few dozen or so every Ashran run. This achievement was also made before the introduction of allied races, which do not count whatsoever for the Nemesis title. So for the Dwarf Stalker title, killing a Dark Iron Dwarf will not yield you any credit. You can, however, speed up the process by working on the quest with multiple people. If everyone in your group has the same Nemesis quests, like Dwarf Stalker, every kill of a dwarf receives an additional credit based on the number of players in your group on the quest to a maximum of 5 credit per kill. Now, with all that understood, you have to do it for every race of the opposite faction. Thankfully, not both factions. Simultaneously, you'll be earning Broken Bones, which are essential to upgrading your Sanctum and completing Nemesis quest in question. After you've completed this, you still need to complete the Fight, Kill, Salute quest. This quest is given to players with a level 3 Gladiator Sanctum and allows them to queue for the unique Highball Colosseum PvP instance.
Oh, bro, I forgot about the Colosseum. I remember when this came out, I was actually like really stoked. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was kind of like Last Man Standing, wasn't it? Like it teleported like 20 or 50 players here or something, and then it was a free-for-all, and whoever didn't die, whoever lived like the longest won.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually kind of cool.
I won that
this
once
instance
on my
puts yourself and 14 other players into a free-for-all arena where the last man standing wins. The Fight, Kill, Salute quest requires you to have killed 100 players in this instance, but also may autocomplete if you actually manage to win a run. The problem with this, however, is that no one actually queues for this mode, as it can only be done by returning to your garrison and queuing for it. As of Dragonflight, you must have 15 people of the same faction and region as you with a level 3 garrison and a Gladiator Sanctum on 2 characters per person. If you win the arena, you will not be able to re-queue for another week, meaning to help the others in the farm, you will need the mentioned second character that intentionally loses over and over for the group. So in order to effectively meet the final criteria of this title, you need 14 other willing players completely willing to commit with you. And
so back in the day, this probably wasn't as bad, but now it's like antiquated, right?
Perform high communication. Once this is all done, you will earn the Warlord of Draenor title for your character. It's just a stupidly long grind of PvP and surprisingly can still be obtained in WoW. But you can see the annoyance of this title and why only 1.6% of players would have it 10 years after its addition.
Wow.
At least while you farm it, you're getting lots of other rare titles along the way, including the Lord/Lady of War. And at number 7, we have the High Warlord and Grand Marshal titles.
Yeah, makes sense.
These titles, while incredibly famous during Classic and Vanilla WoW, were re-added into WoW during Cataclysm with no actual changes to their display. The only thing that changed was the criteria to receive the titles for your characters. To obtain the titles, now you need a rating of 2400 or above in Reddit Battlegrounds. It cannot be achieved in arenas of any sort and only in rated battlegrounds. It may be compared that in 3v3 arenas, a 2400 rating is considered gladiator and above. So it's basically that, but in the 10 versus 10 format of battlegrounds. Originally, vanilla WoW,
like
you had to hit
3K
rank
or
14 in the existing honor point system. This basically derived an absolutely massive grind of killing players in the open world and completing battlegrounds. Every week, your rank points would go down by 20%, meaning basically 20% of your progress just got lost. So you need to get it back as fast as possible every week to ensure you never fall behind.
That's crazy.
Upon hitting the
That's
maximum
so
rank after
crazy.
hundreds of hours, you would receive the Grand Marshal tile for Alliance and High Warlord for Horde permanently. So at least once you did it once back in the day, you never had to do it again. In modern WoW though, it's hitting 2400 in RBGs, which can be pretty difficult nowadays. A big reason for this is not many people queue into RBGs anymore, and even then you need to hit a much higher rank than available to the average person. Essentially, a player with this was either insanely dedicated back in the day, or plays a lot of RBGs. And at number 6, we have the Trainer title.
What was the
In Mists of
percentage on that
Pandaria,
one?
Blizzard would introduce a new system in the players of form of pet battles. This is a turn-based Pokemon-inspired system where you take the mini little critters of WoW and make them fight against one another. It came with its own leveling system, creature types, and creature counters based on its type. It also had a PvP mode that you can queue into that basically just places you into a 1v1 battle against a random player of probably equal skill and level as you. For the Trainer title, you would need to win a massive 1000 PvP pet battles with a team.
Do you guys remember there was like a leveling glitch or leveling bug for a while where you could get experience for pet battles, and it was like the quickest way to level by just flying around and pet battling and leveling up that way? And then they ended up patching it like 2 weeks later or something. Yeah. You can still, it's still there. Yeah, but no, it was like the quickest way, bro. Like if you did a pet battle, it was like half a level or something. You guys remember that? It was like crazy OP, then they nerfed it. And anyway, that was the last time I pet battled, because I did that to try to get some more characters to grind rank 1 with. Yeah.
Team of level 25 pets. This was rewarded via the Deadly Pet Brawler achievement. The problem with this grind is that basically no one actually interacts with the PvP aspect of pet battles, if they mess with pet battles at all. It's not a forgotten system from Blizzard whatsoever, as even in Dragonflight and War Within, it continues to be iterated upon by Blizzard, showing people do continue to use it. It's certainly a system designed for the most casual or actually devoted of WoW, as it's super easy to understand and not difficult to get involved with. The queue times for PvP pet battles can be pretty lengthy, as it's just generally not interacted with. You can find the button to queue for these brawls at the bottom right corner of your pet journal
I didn't
tab.
even know you could do that.
It could be a good few minutes or more for just one person to find you, and then you have to actually win the pet battle. The person you're facing against might just have a better pet battle team or get a tad bit luckier than you by landing a critical hit, for example. Basically, just have a maxed out team of battle.
I like how he doesn't mention skill at all. It's either luck or better team. There's no skill here, man. Like,
pets and win 1,000 fights with them. Anyone with this title can definitely be assumed to have a great love for little critter companions, honestly, as only 0.3% of players have this title.
Holy crap! That's a rare
and
title.
then you by land only
What?
Lucky points battle. Companions needing a critter
Was that a
companions to be assumed.
sponsor? That's wild.
1,000 fights with.
Is it a sponsor that's like glitching out the video? Most replayed? Bro, that's actually a 5-head sponsor because it makes you think the video's lagging. Follow Glitch Stars my new corp. That's really interesting. So he glitches out his own video. Huh.
And at number 5, we have the Con title added in patch 5.2 of Mists of Pandaria. This title will be rewarded upon completing its namesake achievement, a massive PvP meta achievement that yields a completion rate amongst all WoW players at 0.3%.
He had that shit.
In order to complete this achievement,
you had
must earn the
to
Master
get
of Battleground achievement for
basically do all the achievements for every battleground, including the new ones. Like there was one called like Battle Master, I think was the title, where you get like all the AV achievements, Aralthi Basin achievements, Warsong Gulch achievements. I think that's it. And then, or unless there was more, like I think Strand of the Ancient as well. And was there another one in? It's almost like Aralthi Basin, but there's only 3 bases. It's like on Worgen Land. I forget what the fuck that battleground is called. There's that one as well. And then for Con, you also have to get like all the achievements for calls it, the new mop battlegrounds, which were Temple of Cotton Mogu and like Silver Shard Mines. It was like a mines kind of like you almost like Team Fortress 2 or like Overwatch, like move the payload objective type of deal. It was like the one battleground that like WoW has. It's like that. I don't think they ever recreated that. And I think there's another one like something of the Five Suns or whatever battleground. But I remember Temple of Cotton Mogu was the orb map, and then the mines map. There was another one, I don't know if it came in the same expansion, but it was like definitely another WoW themed battleground, so I'm pretty sure they had like 3. But yeah, you had to get like all the achievements for basically that shit. Like I haven't even gotten Battle Master. Like I think I've completed Arathi Basin and like Altered Valley, but I haven't gotten like all the things for Warsong Gulch. I think for like the first 5, like from Era to Wrath, I believe. That's what the Battle Master like achievement is. I'm pretty sure.
Battle for Gilneas, Twin Peaks, Temple
Battle
of
for
Mogu,
Gilneas,
Island of Conquest, and Silver Shard
There we
Mines.
go.
For
Silver
each
Shard
battleground,
Mines,
you
I was
must win
right.
100 of each of them. And after this, it branches into the uniqueness of each battleground. With the Battle for Gilneas, you must capture 50 total flags, defend 2 bases in a single battle.
Wow.
With the battleground, after being down 500 resources from the enemy, win in under 6 minutes, capture and defend a base in a single run, gas under the double rainbow, win the enemy faction scoring 0 points, capture 2 bases in a single run, defend 10 bases, win 10 battles for Gilneas while controlling all 3 flags, win by 100 points or less, and get 10 honorable kills at each base in a single battle. And this is just for the Battle for Gilneas, and completing these achievements can already be considered basically impossible by the vast majority of players, and for the most part, you'd be right. The difficulty aspect in these runs can range from generally just telling uninformed players how to play the game, others not aiming for your goals, and a limit of 5 players to queue with an unrated PvP. You can technically queue against an enemy
and
faction
I
that
have the
purposely
Storm as
allows
well.
you to farm
Yeah.
these achievements
I've
and
gotten
earn
that, I'm
every
pretty
one
sure,
title,
as well.
but the portion that blocks this from happening
yeah,
is the
Warsong
Master Isle
Gulch.
of Conquest achievement, which can only be queued for and
yeah,
unrated,
Island of
and it's a
Conquest, I fucking hate
40v40
that
battleground. This means, even with a group of 5, you must hope that the other 35 on your team are up to par and can do what needs to be done. You must also completely stomp the enemy faction, as there is no
40v40
world where they just
BGs,
let you
man.
win. At least not all 40 of them. This achievement is incredibly difficult, and you will surely be on it for a great amount of time, even when truly committing to the farm. If you have this achievement, you either got insanely lucky, or had the craziest amount of help imaginable to complete things like this. So anyone with it must really love PvP, or just really wanted to show this title off. And at number 4, we have the Famed Slayers title. These titles are specific to each corresponding season they're around and change for each current end boss of a raid tier. For example, if Yggdrasil is the current raid tier and you meet the requirements for this title, it will read as Famed Slayer of Fyrak. Every raid tier, there's a Hall of Fame that Blizzard puts out. This essentially immortalizes the first 200 guilds to down a raid's end boss in Mythic difficulty. Mythic raiding is undoubtedly one of the hardest
Wait,
pieces
is this a thing for every boss
That's so
always?
cool.
Famed Slayer of? How? I didn't even know this was a thing. Yeah? Wait, so for every mythic difficulty on a last boss, you get a title called Famed Slayer. It's basically like a rank 1 title, right? And if you get in the top 200 guilds to clear it, you get like your rank 1. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I actually like that. That's a good idea. I had no idea this even existed, though.
Same here.
of content in all of WoW, and requires some of the most insane coordination and game sense that many of the competitive games never even come close to. Not only is getting cutting edge in it.
So how many people? It's top 200 guilds, and there's 20 players in every guild, right? Usually guilds do 20-man rating, right? Or 25? 20 or 25? We're busting out the old calculator here. So for every boss, it's 20. So it's gonna be 4,000 people get this every tier. So it's pretty rare, but it's not like that rare. It's pretty rare.
Itself an already difficult task, a reward for killing a mythic end boss before the next tier, being amongst the first 200 guilds to do so is an insane feat of strength. These guilds are typically amongst some of the best PvE players in the entire world, and are fighting the boss before it starts to receive nerfs. Many times, Blizzard will hold off on nerfing the last boss too much to really separate the players from Hall of Fame from the more casual Mythic Raiders. Once the kill is obtained, the entire guild is rewarded with the achievement corresponding to the current raid tier. So this means that even if you did not participate actively with the kill the boss, you can still use the title technically. You do still need to actually kill the boss and receive the cutting edge version of their achievement to then be allowed to use the Hall of Fame title. But if a guild gets a placement amongst the Hall of Fame, they will be awarded the title. However, if you leave the guild for whatever reason, you will not keep it. This is made to combat guilds potentially trying to sell titles to people who don't actually earn the prestige behind it. If you were to say only 20 people per guild get the title, however, as Mythic rating is specific to 20 players at a time, then only 4,000 people per tier would receive the special Slayer titles. Even if only 1 million people actively play WoW still, only 4,000 people per tier is a crazy low number compared to everything else. Either way, if you see a famed Slayer of Sarkarath Argus, or really any end boss, you know for sure that players amongst some of the best raiders during that era of WoW, and continues to prevail with their guild, as leaving the guild will remove the title. And at number 3, we have rank 1 titles. Similar to every tier of WoW, there is a new season that follows it. These seasons usually come in the form of new dungeon rotations for Mythic Plus, and a reset of PvP rating across the board. When these seasons complete, however, the very best, or the rank 1 players, will receive special titles specific to their accomplishment. To obtain these, you literally had to be within the top 0.1% of all players in rating. This just means you had the highest rating in your region, and that you were ahead of 99.9% of all the player base with it. This rule is applied to both Mythic Plus and PvP, as they share very similar criteria at the end of a season. These titles
Mythic Plus has a 0.1% title in it? Is that true? How do I not know this?
I can't lose.
Yes? The hero titles. Wait, 0.1% Mythic Plus title.
Change depending on the theme of the season. As an example of this, in Season 3 of Dragonflight, they rewarded Mythic Plus players with the Dreaming Hero titles to permanently keep. While you can obtain the Dreaming alone, the Hero portion is given to rank 1 players. For this same season, PvP players would receive the Verdant Gladiator title for 3 of the arenas, and Verdant Legend for Solo Shuffle.
Interesting.
This number...
When was this added? Was this added in Dragonflight? Oh, it started in Shadowlands? Okay, that's interesting. You know, it's also interesting, there's probably so many more people that play it. So like, for Arena, it's 0.1%, right? Say it's like top 100 for Arena, which is, would that mean like 100,000 people play? No. Wait, what? 0.01 is 0.1%, right? How many people would actually play then? 10? Huh? There's no way there's only 10,000 players that play WoW Arena. How is this math not mathing, chat? You're missing a 0? 0.01. Oh, it's 0.001. Okay, so yeah, so like in some of the smaller seasons, it's like 100,000 people, and you're right, it's 0.001 because it's. Is that right? Okay, it is 0.00. Okay, so yeah, that would make sense. Anyway, for Mythic Plus, it's not like 100,000 people playing in a season for Mythic Plus, right? It's probably more like 5 times that. It's like 500,000 or maybe more. So it maybe like 750,000. So when you do the math there, it's like top 750 people. Someone that Mythic Plus, tell me the math on this. How many people actually get the rank 1 Mythic Plus? It's for sure more. It's even more than 750. It's way more. Holy crap. How many? Do you guys know? For like the last season, for example, off the top of your head, for people that play it retail. Oh, it's per class, per spec. Oh my gosh. It's over 1,000. This season was about 900. Okay, anyway. So in that sense, the rank 1 titles for PvP are probably about 10 times more rare, but just because 10 times less people play. It's because it's a percentage-based title. Just to give credence to this video, all right? They're very different in that regard, all right?
Is never the exact same, and depending on the cutoff of actual rating, as some teams have tied scores, may increase or decrease the amount of people who get the titles. So not only did you have to play when the season was current, you had to literally be the very best in the entire genre of the game to obtain these titles. On average, only about 50 to 100 players per region get these titles per category at a time. So just seeing them with it is one of the factors in its rarity. To help give some further perspective, the Obsidian Gladiator title from Season 2 Dragonflight has a collection rate of 0.0057% amongst all known accounts. The tradition of these seasons started all the way back in the Burning Crusade, with the Vengeful Gladiator title only being shared amongst the 0.0021% of WoW players.
Okay, so here is like an interesting distinction. We've talked about this before on stream, but the way it worked back in the day is there was battle groups. There was, I believe, 13 battle groups. The top one player of the battle group would get the title. So I know what you're thinking. Wow, so it was rarer in the past, right? The top one would get the title. That's it. The difference is, back in the day, it was the top one of, there was 2v2, top one, 3v3, top one, and 5v5, top one. Nowadays, it's only 3v3. So you're like, okay, well, it's still 3 different brackets instead of 1. Well, it goes more. There was 13 battle groups back then. It was the top one in each battle group. I believe there was 13. Maybe it was like 12 or something. 12, 14, 13, something like that. I think it was 13. That number seems to stick. It's probably something like that. Okay, so now it's 13 times each bracket. So you're like, okay, well, it's 13 times 3 then, right? You get 39 people with rank 1, right? 39 rank 1 titles. No, it's 13. In 5s, it would be 5 people sharing a title. In 3s, it would be 3 people sharing a title. In 2s, it would be 2 people sharing a title. So it's like, okay, so 5 plus 3 plus 2, that would be 10 rank 1 titles per battle group, and there's 13 battle groups. So that's 130 rank 1 titles, right? It's like, okay, well, that's not as rare. But it's like, that's also not it. You could have up to 10 people on a 5v5 roster. You could have up to 6 people in a 3v3 roster and up to 4 in a 2v2 roster. And the majority of teams had closer to the high amount because they wanted to share rank 1 titles with their friends and more people that actually were really good. So on average, you could probably more take like 8 people from a 5s team. You could take, say, 5, like, let's take the median, like 5 people from a 3s team and 3 people from a 2s team. So it's really 16 players times 13 battle groups, so 208 rank 1s every season. These are obviously estimates. So it's like, okay, well, that's a little less rare then for sure. But that's not all. There's also ties. So a lot of the times people in the past with the OG system would tie at the rank 1 spot. So say there was a team that had 10 players on it, and then a tied team with another 10 players on it. So it could be anywhere between 3 and 6, plus 3 and 6, plus 2 and 4, because there was also ties. So, and this happened all the time on every BG, not, you know, so that would actually make the estimation go quite a bit higher, because a lot of the times it would be like 10 players would get it in 5s, tied with another 10 to get in 5s. So on that one battle group, in that one bracket, 20 players would get the one title. Anyway, so if you increase the estimation to kind of maybe just like the high end of these numbers, so like 10, 6, and 4, it would probably be something like 20 players got the rank 1 titles per battle group times 13 battle groups. You have about 260 players getting the rank 1 titles back in the day. So by my estimation, the old school rank 1 titles were actually a lot more common than the new ones. It depends every season based on the number of people playing, but it's usually around 50 to like 150 rank 1s in the new rank 1 title system that was implemented in the second half of Mist of Pandaria. Anyway, I've thought a lot about this because someone like 6 months ago was like, well, what's the rarest title in the game? And it's like, well, it's probably rank 1 titles because you know only like a certain amount of people get them. And then I think it was Peo was like, oh, well, the old ones are even rarer. And I was like, you might think that, but it's actually not the case at all. They're actually like a lot more common. Anyway, these numbers aren't accurate because basically the achievements were added after people logged in. So going back to the video, it's like, well, these are rare. Look at the numbers. These numbers aren't accurate because the people who have the titles haven't logged in yet for it to show. Anyway, boom, there it is.
There's in the world. The Mythic Plus and Solo Shuffle Edition.
Oh, wait, there's more. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Weren't added until very recently in WoW. So the rank 1 title through the players has been a long known standstill. These guys mean the absolute business when it comes to pushing WoW to its limits. And at number 2, we have the Realm First titles. Similar to our entry about the Immortal, this entry derives solely from Wrath of the Lich King and its introduction to achievements.
I didn't even think about these. Holy crap.
How to obtain these achievements was pretty self-explanatory. Basically, you would need to be part of a raid group that enters a raid instance and be the first in your entire server to bring it down. An example of this comes from Death's Demise achievement. You had to be part of the group of 25 players only that brought down the infamous Yogg-Saron with 0 lights, also known as without the assistance of the keepers. If you happen to be in one of these groups, you definitely were playing night and day like crazy, as these titles would immediately retire per server if you were not quick enough. You could definitely be worthy of the title, but lose to another guild in record time and would become legitimately impossible to obtain something like Death's Demise again. So only 25 people per server actually obtained the titles per raid in Wrath of the Lich King until the title reward format was left behind in Icecrown Citadel. You still would receive—
How many realms are there? Quick math. It's like 25 players per realm. How many realms are there? Like 100-ish? 200-ish? 150? I actually don't even know. Not every realm got the kill at all through the whole expansion? A lot back then? Yeah, I don't know, like 150. So there's still like a couple thousand maybe of these titles. That's still pretty rare.
Receive the achievements saying you took part in the Realm First Kill the Lich King and every boss onwards, but no longer did they give you titles for bragging rights. So only for a very select few raids did this format actually exist, and the last obtainable one was Grand Crusader for completing the Trial of the Grand Crusader raid with 0 wipes on a Barak and 25 mana. While these achievements do technically have a higher obtain rate than a large majority of rank 1 titles from the previous entry, they also were only obtainable during a single expansion. It wasn't even for a full expansion at that. Plus, since Wrath of the Lich King was considered the peak of WoW, a lot of players who would have gotten these titles may have quit the game entirely by now. At least the rank 1 players continue to be made rather than being completely extinct outside of the previous season. There's just genuinely no way to get something like Realm First Magic Seeker ever again unless you were just really cracked at the game in the Wrath era. All you need to understand is that for every realm you see when logging into WoW, there are only 25 people with titles from this entry, and many of them may not even be playing the game anymore. And closing us off, we have this Scarab Lord title from Vanilla WoW at number 1. Like almost any entry on this list, the title corresponding to the entry has been removed, and that's essentially what makes them so rare. This title, while in the same boat, has this effect doubled. If you're unfamiliar with the Scarab Lord grind, you'll be set onto a 32 quest long chain. The first couple of these quests are relatively simple, but it isn't until the Path of Righteousness begins that it really begins to become absurd. This is the portion that requires you to kill any of the mini Silithid bugs in Silithus and loot their Silithid carapace fragments. These fragments can be turned in 200 at a time for 200 reputation.
For how long is this video? It's going to take like 10 minutes to explain this quest, by the way.
Brood of Narstormer, which